all of that detail yet, but you're starting to be able to see that there is some level of a base to this place. I would definitely say at this point, like, you can't really see the pit that's down there. Not terribly important. On this level here, you're kind of surrounded by this purple and pink alien aberrant growth that is indeed like some sort of alien, almost mycelial, like a mushroom sort of growth. There's spores in the air. It smells earthy. It's still wet and dank like a lot of this place where there's odd smells about it, but this place more than others has that kind of weird earth-like flavor to the air where it's almost like eating dirt with each kind of inhalation and each time you like lick your lips. And that's just kind of like the mushroom mass that just kind of fills the air of this place. We're kind of picking up at this point where as you start to burn away the mushrooms and these growths with this gout of fire, it all instantly recoils and is instantly cleansed of this stone foundation. But in that same process, right next to where you all saw the little eye that was actually spying on you, you immediately see this much larger, much longer eye stalk start to form out of the alien mass. And as the eye looks at you, it starts to glow with color, and the magic starts to sparkle as the weave bends to its will. And that's where, Kyrinos, if you would like to roll what this eye stalk does to you, we will continue with that moment.
That's a D10.
It is indeed.
Oh no,
That's not what you want to roll.
Yeah, this could be the end for Kyrinos.
Yeah, so as it blasts out at you with this purple ray, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw. And do you have advantage at present?
I do not.
You're gonna have advantage for doing the oh wait, does Taryn have the do you have advantage right now, Taryn?
No, I actually don't.
You should for doing the recap, right?
He does indeed.
Yeah.
But that's why I was kind of asking. On some level here, it is a part of 1D&D that when you gain inspiration, I'm pretty sure you can just give it away, and actually inspire someone else. If you would like to, Chris, you are welcome to give Justin advantage on this saving throw. Otherwise, Justin, you will be making this saving throw normal.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say you might want to. I don't know. You might want to save it, Karen, for yourself. But
I mean, I'll give it to you. I feel like it could be useful here. So yeah, give that to you.
all right, I'll try not to let it go to waste here. Let's see.
Sometimes the dice got to tell the truth they've got.
Ooh.
So we are working with the one rule. So while that is excellent because you are going to save against this, it is not going to produce a new inspiration. But that is going to have you dodging away as this like black and purple beam with kind of like almost a negative sort of light kind of rotating around this central beam is going to form and blast out towards you. And this gout is going to deal. I feel like holding Alt while I did that did not work well. That's a lot of ones. That's good. It's going to do 50, so 25 necrotic damage to you. Does that leave you at 1 hit point or more?
Yes.
Excellent. So as this eye stalk kind of forms and blasts into your flesh with this like just it's rotting your flesh away. How many hit points does it leave you at? Just like roughly half? Are you close to death?
I'm about a little better than a third, so bloodied but not mortally wounded.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things. what kind of stop after this, but it's one of those things that, it like blasts into your shoulder as you're just trying to like matrix out of the way of this gout of light or like anti-light. And you can like see like where your flesh is just blackened, and you can see points where there's like abscesses where the flesh has just been disintegrated away. And it's gonna leave you severely wounded, and you can treat with that shortly here. But Kyranos will indeed live.
Yeah, that would have without that. Yeah, without that inspiration, he'd be dead. Well, not just dead, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's so much of everything with this. The disintegration is the 9. That's the one that you just have no body.
Oh,
This was the
the
death ray.
enervation or death ray, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 that can actually end you outright in this campaign. So it's a nice, good result.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that 10 though, I was like, yeah. The dice do not want Kyranos to live. All right. I'm just gonna step away for a minute while Chris is taking this phone call. So be back in a second.
That is 100% all right. Cool. Justin stepped away for a second, but did you get called in, or are they good?
Yeah, no, I'm good. They managed to get someone else, so I can stay.
Excellent. So what we continued with before while you did step away was essentially like he kind of still gets hit by it, and you do see as it basically creates like a necrosis point where his flesh like rots away, and he has like an abscess on that like point in his shoulder, but is otherwise like, well, severely wounded, is able to walk away alive here.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I'm really glad I gave Justin the inspiration or the advantage.
Well, without even thinking about it, when he's like, "Yeah, Chris, will you do it while I figure out my headset?" I hadn't even thought about like, you might want advantage when you start off the session.
Yeah, this could have gone really horrible without it. That was
As comical as it is, he already made another character, like just in case. I mean, the risk is real in this place, but there's a lot of ways to also not just die. But that's definitely one of them. He had a 1 in 5 chance, basically, on that roll, where it was high likelihood of just death.
I just could ask what is like out of game, I guess. But yeah, is that like a beholder beam or something? Like they have like
It is, in particular, yes, this is a beholder. You guys met, I think it was a spectator inside of the Lost Mines of Fandelver, where it's one of these creatures with 4 eye stalks, and it's roughly kind of like the size of like maybe like a basketball or like a football, like a soccer ball. Um, you know, big, but not terribly big. A beholder, like its eye stalk would be kind of like the size of like say like your arm or like a leg, and its head kind of like the diameter of like a torso. So those things, just kind of hovering, are essentially the size of a human, maybe a little bit wider of a berth, but yeah, beholders are like the big brothers to the spectator.
oh, okay, all right. Then I get, and they have, from what I get, they have like some beams that are really really bad for you.
One of the things that makes them a little bit tamer is that they don't just shoot what they want. they have all of these different weapons that they use, and it's random which ones they fire off. So it kind of tames beholders and makes them a little bit less deadly than simply always firing off disintegration and death rays.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's one way to balance it.
Yeah, exactly. But they're also not limited by spell slots. So if you let them attack enough, and with bad enough luck, they can always cast them. It's just at random. So, like when Justin came into the chat room, I was like, "Hey, is it cruel if I make you do the roll to see what you get hit by?"
So Karen, that inspiration saved me. I would have been gone without it.
Yeah, that I'm really glad I gave it to you.
So we'll pick back up with this moment. The eye stalk blasts into you. You're able to mostly dodge this kind of like purple and like black negative beam of light. It will kind of rot away part of your shoulder, like where you were not able to get out of the way of the beam. And otherwise, the eye stalk kind of immediately like shrivels up like a mushroom that spawned like 3 or 4 days ago and kind of disappears into this purple and pink mass along the walls. And it's kind of up to you. What would you all like to do after this?
So Kirano's kind of gasping in pain, looking back at Taryn. One of those I'm done for. But he saved me one to press on now, and need to make this level. So
Yeah, we do. Just how is it looking from where Kiernos burned off the growth? Like, did it get burned off, or is it gone, or?
The use of fire 100% burns away this stuff. So if we do something like that, little polyhedron is essentially like cleaned of this purple mass growing on the stone. The problem is you now know that there's probably a high cost to actually taking care of this stuff. So when you're exploring this level, you probably just want to leave it alone and kind of deal with the creepy factor of these eye stalks potentially watching you.
Yeah, probably don't want to do that again. Yeah, no more ice stalks shooting back at us.
yeah, so I think Kiranos is going to, like, as the kind of as he's recovering from the blast, and as the eye sock kind of disappears back into this kind of mess of weird alien growth. He's going to kind of step down onto the landing and maybe try to step off uh, onto the landing here and kind of like moving up. Um, Actually trying to take a
So,
little cover.
gotcha. Are you still looking to kind of move towards the plaque?
Yeah, but yeah.
All right. I moved you to the larger map because I don't necessarily have that spot open right now. But yeah, if you're still kind of looking to move around the actual plaque, I can leave you on that map for the staircase. But again, you kind of have this hallway. I think you've got a lantern. No, wait, you've got a pebble with light cast on it.
Right, yeah.
And I constantly forget like the different light radiuses. I think light is 15 feet. So you can kind of see like two little turns about 15 or so feet now behind you down this route. But otherwise, the hall seems to continue like the 30 or so feet that you're able to cast light down in that direction. But there are two little halls that are like, 5 foot or so wide. Um, Roll a perception for me as you kind of move. And kind of as you like move to like take this edge, you almost have a moment where you like second guess for a second, like you saw something down the little hall, and as you kind of like look back for a moment, there's not movement, but you can spot like metal plated like chest, like almost like the breastplate of like a human standing in one of these corridors. And as you look at the side that's like caddy corner to you, you can see like something holding like a massive axe. Most cases, you would think this is just like a armored knight kind of sitting in a castle almost on display sort of thing. But you recognize here, these things aren't like knights on display. These are corpses. There's two of those fleshy amalgamations standing in those little corridors about 15 feet away. They're not moving, but they're there.
Tyrannos is going to try to whisper back to Taryn to alert him to that he sees them, but they don't seem to be moving at the moment.
There's no real reason that, yeah, Terran wouldn't be able to pick up that these things are there to recognize same kind of thing. Like, they just seem to be standing as if that's what they're there for. There was plenty of noise from the fire burning away this stuff. There would have been plenty of kind of movement and sound from you all at this point, but no reactions from them.
So need to be activated or something activates them. But maybe keep an eye out. In terms of in terms of like the floor, aside like beyond where Kiranos kind of cleared it, is there any way to try to step to avoid like essentially if he can, he would like to try to avoid like stepping on some of this stuff unless it's like completely carpeting the ground, in which case he wouldn't bother. But he's thinking like if he inadvertently like hitting it might uh, disrupt or antagonize the thing that attacked them once already. So to the extent possible, as he moves forward, he'd be trying to kind of like tiptoe around.
I think there's plenty of reason to say you could certainly try to tiptoe around, but you've kind of already remarked and noticed that this is almost like a spore hanging as a cloud in the air of this place. Even where you think you don't see any of it, it's probably still there. Much of the staircase is covered, so you could kind of tiptoe around, but you also know you're going to inadvertently step on it. It's pretty much impossible to avoid. The only way that you could kind of avoid it is by actually going down that hallway. Um, it clears up probably, every few feet you can see signs of it clearing more and more. You can see initially in that hallway it's less inundated than the staircase is, but that's kind of where you're going to have an issue. If you want to go around that staircase, you're going to come back in contact with this purple and pink growth.
Gotcha. Well, he's gonna look back to Taryn and maybe suggest like try and keep an eye on those things. Shout if they keep moving. I'm gonna see if I can get a look at that plaque.
All right, I'll keep an eye on them.
And with that, Kiranos will start trying to make his way towards the plaque.
Yeah, I think you'll kind of have like the same situation where every once in a while you'll take a step and another little eye stalk is going to kind of sprout and just look at you. And then after a moment just kind of disappear. And you kind of get a sensation that like there's a certain regularity to stepping on this stuff or interacting with it. It's going to get you seen. Trying to cleanse it and hurt it might be what gets the hostile response. But you can make your way to the plaque. And did I actually post it to you guys last time? Or I don't know why I have the third warning lower than the fourth. But that should pop it up for you all to view. Walk through water with weapon in hand. Slake your shadow at the font. The vulture is the first step. Write the gods. The walls of history tell all.
Okay, so I think we know what the vulture is the first step refers to.
Yeah, probably. The other riddles, no clue yet, but probably got something to do with this floor.
And perhaps will become clearer as we make our way. And Kiernos is going to suggest we kind of try and continue on past the plaque this way, like down the passageway to the right.
All right.
So kind of making your way around that little edge to that first little northern turn and then make your way upwards towards there.
Yeah.
Just so kind of making your way. You'll still again have some of these eyeballs kind of pop out as they kind of look to you, and then after a few moments, you kind of round the corner. You can see about 20 or so feet ahead of you before you start to see as the light kind of crosses across. There's some sort of face kind of staring back at you through the gloom. You can't quite make it out. It's about head high and it's kind of just beyond where the actual like bright light of your pebble is coming from. What kind of thoughts do you have as you like round the corner and like get this first kind of glimpse of this head seeming to like stare back? Somebody's at the end of this hall or halfway down this hall from you.
So Kiernos is going to kind of try to like whisper to Taryn that he sees someone up ahead, can't make out the details. I think he's just going to doesn't want to call out, but I think he's going to try and take like a few steps, like about 5 feet in, to try to see if he can get the light to shine a little more, get a little more detail.
Gotcha. So as you start to move further and further in, you'll start to notice the growth on the floors is kind of clearing away a little bit. As you get closer towards this thing, you start to see like the outlines of almost a kind of like a canine-like head where it's elongated towards you with a snout. And then you start to see that it's not quite just the darkness that's shading this face from you. As you get closer, you'll see that it's actually like a black onyx head, and it's the head of a jackal. And you'll see it's kind of mounted to the wall, and that there's just about like a 20-foot corridor or so before you come to a terminus. And there's just a jackal head kind of around your head height, looking just kind of straight towards you. And I think possibly, yeah, I feel like it's just kind of the jackal head kind of hanging at head height here.
And then on the so Kiernos, thinking of what he just saw on the plaque, is like the walls of the corridor as they go. He's looking for any signs of writing or unusual like pictographs, hieroglyphs, as he kind of.
Uh, I don't believe you're gonna see anything in this one. Like there's like one side of the walls are kind of pretty traditional, like just kind of the same stones that have lined much of this place. You guys would probably start to come to a conclusion that like there's kind of two different stones that are native to this like earth that has been delved into. And it's basically what it comes up to. I think over and over, you're going to see kind of this tan and slightly reddish stone. So I would say the stonework just seems to be pretty undecorated stone in these places. If there's anything, perhaps at times you're just seeing more and more that same kind of demon face that you've seen in this place that kind of decorates everything. And it's just a bearded, like humanoid, just kind of yelling out with a gaping mouth, just fully opened, and then horns kind of protruding from the head. Um, if there's one thing that this place does over and over again, it's that face.
So Kiernos will turn to Taryn to see if he has any thoughts about wanting to try anything with the head. Otherwise, Kiernos will suggest we continue our exploration.
I know I I don't really have anything for that. I think so at least. I think we need to, like you said, just explore more.
So between keen mind and just what you guys have done here, you have a pretty solid sense that this is the room underneath the actual demon head where you guys dropped into Ijin's tomb. And I would say you have a pretty solid sense that this is the point where you saw the eyes of a creature kind of looking back at you. And it would probably be through this head in front of you.
Okay, in that case, Kiernos is going to he's going to try to look through the eyes to see like what he would see. If it's just like a
So as you look into the like into this jackal mask, the eyes themselves aren't actually like anything to look through. It's actually the open mouth of the jackal that you can kind of like look through, and you start to like kind of spy through almost like the throat, like on the sides of this thing's tongue. It's much kind of larger than like your actual face, kind of larger than life. And as you look into it, you're going to see a pretty familiar room, lit by torches in kind of the four corners. You can see two of these torches kind of standing behind these large sphinx figures that are just standing guard in each of these corners. And it's enough to kind of assume that there's two more on the like southeast and southwest side closer to you. And you can see this boat that sits atop that ziggurat. And you can see to your right a figure walking into the room. It's a small dwarf standing about 4 or 5 feet tall, and you see as he kind of steps from one of these floor pieces into the next, and as he steps onto it, all of the sphinxes in unison just open up their mouth, and this swarm of flies and locusts fly out of them, and they swarm around this dwarf, and you just watch as they're screaming, and you hear these horrific blasts of pain and cries. And then after a few moments, all of the bugs and everything kind of like following this dwarf collapsing to the ground. They finish picking his flesh clean, and they all seem to kind of like dissipate almost into dust as they disintegrate. And before you, you see the corpse of a dwarf, a corpse that you have seen before.
Yeah, so Kiernos watching this kind of horrified, but also unable to kind of take his eyes away. Um, so I think we pretty much figured out that the foot was the one that the dwarf corpse had stepped on. Is that track with kind of what we just
You
thought?
don't have as good of a view from this perspective because before you guys were standing atop the actual ziggurat. You could actually
Oh, okay.
look down from a much better view to actually see these things. But yeah, effectively, you guys kind of already knew if he made it that far before he died, if these things are trapped, the bird was one of the safe ones because he had to step on that to then choose. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's like the hook or the gate or the foot. So you know the bird is good, and you knew that he chose the foot, and you basically can see here like that moment of him like walking into it, and then as he stepped away from, I think they called it the crane there, and onto the foot. And the moment he stepped onto the plate with the foot on it is when the flies and the locusts came out of the Sphinx and just destroyed it.
Right, gotcha. So kind of as the kind of the vision or replay almost kind of plays out, Kirinos will kind of like jerk his head back, um, and kind of like turning to Taryn and describe what he saw and suggest that must have been the screaming we heard coming from up above. Imagine, hate to think of the dwarf spirit just trying to relive that over and over again, but not another explanation.
Yeah, holy hell, this place is cursed. Is the only thing I have to say after that.
Now let's keep moving over some more information.
Yeah, so how are we moving? Are we moving further down the hall as we went before, or are we going back to saw those two well, monsters?
Yeah, I guess.
So from this point, you guys could probably spot the hall on the opposite side of the staircase from you here and kind of recognize that you have the place to the south or you can go to the west.
Yeah, Kiernos is going to suggest we kind of continue making our way down, along this uh, little narrow corridor to the south.
All right. Uh, you still want to take point, Kiernos, or do you want me to go first?
If you don't mind, you've got a better eye for the nasty things that might be waiting for us.
Yeah, I don't mind. You managed to dodge most of what that ice sock did, but still got hurt, so I can take the lead. And I guess Taryn will, as we go down there, he will not like checking for traps like we did with the pole, but just keep an eye out on like everything in here because he's very paranoid right now with the growth and everything. Just ice darting everywhere.
Yeah, like if you're walking across this like 50 or so foot span of uh I don't know why banister comes to mind. It is a ledge doesn't work. I can't think of the name of this, but as you're walking across this open hallway, uh, every probably 5 or 10 feet that you cover, there's another eye, and it's kind of a weird sensation of if you're walking at a normal pace, there's probably 3 or 4 eyes looking at you at any given point. If you're moving very slowly, trying to like watch your step, and you're moving like 5 feet a minute kind of thing, there's probably an eye or two at any given point, like staring at you from these walls. It's going to be very creepy to cover that distance, no matter how fast or no matter how slow you go. And there's not much that you can make out before you have to step on something. There's no way for you to get a good sense of, are there pressure plates beneath this growth? At times, there's almost like a mat of life that's in front of you, that if there was something underneath it that was going to kill you, you wouldn't know until you trigger it. But with high anxiety, with a little bit of caution, kind of just slowly moving and occasionally just like accidentally making eye contact with these little, like, some of these eyes are only like the size of your thumb. Some of them are like the size of your fist. And it's really, really creepy regardless to make eye contact with them. But eventually, making it down towards the southern side of this can make your way to a point where you can see you could go down the stairs and continue on towards the base of this place, or there's a hallway probably a little bit longer than the length of the light, maybe 25, 30 feet to the south of you before it seems to turn in either direction, to the right and to the left. Yeah, my bad. I set up all the maps and I forgot. I have none of them set with Fog of War right now. So that's kind of what you guys can see. It's probably a little bit top right for you, but I have a feeling you can probably see the area revealed presently. Yep.
Aaron, I will start like going into the hallway, but only up to like the crossing. I guess there.
Yeah. By the time you make it to the crossing, you can see like this area is still inundated with the growth. It's reduced a lot less than the actual stairs, but it's still here, and they seem to go on. You like look in either direction, you can kind of see like a terminus, maybe like 15, 20 feet to the west, and that it can probably go on for about 30 or 40 feet before you lose the light to the right. So it seems like the hall is a little bit longer to the right direction. To your left, though. To player left. Character left. I'm good at things. I know words.
Which way do you think, Taryn?
Yeah. Well, let's go with the east. Let's go east. Just think they have any reason to go any other way. So start with east and see what happens.
So heading down this hallway, you kind of continue for 20, 30 feet, and you just keep seeing off into the darkness that the hall just kind of continues on and on. Go 50 feet, about 80, kind of like look behind you, and you've lost all sight of where you came from into the darkness there, as you all can just kind of continue on. And eventually, after some time, kind of coming to a point where you do start to hear like the splashing of water, and you start to see like as the tiles at the edge of this light seem to take on almost like a translucent sort of blue hue, and you'll come up to a room. um, yeah, so as you kind of like come up on this next room, you start to see like the floor of this place seems to be some sort of like almost like not frozen as in ice, but it's water kind of held in position. And you can hear like the splashing sound. You can see the water kind of collecting like just above the stones. And there's a certain sense where like this water should kind of splash out of this room and start to come towards you, but it seems to be held. And as you get closer and closer to this point where the water sits, you'll see that the room ahead of you kind of extends towards the north, and there's probably about a 15-foot wide corridor before this whole room seems to be a much longer hall, north to south, than it is wide. It's only about 15 feet wide.
So Kyranos, as he kind of sees this water in his kind of strange, kind of solid, not frozen state, and recalling again the plaque, is going to draw his rapier and kind of like to Taryn, kind of repeat the first two lines of the warning from the plaque they came across earlier.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, dagger. Not, he doesn't have a rapier. Sorry.
Yeah, Taryn would like, summon his knives and just have them ready.
My bad, I forgot that I didn't actually reveal where you're walking into this area. So this one's going to be kind of like the south, kind of west side of the screen, where you can see. So as you guys actually like walk into the area, you're going to see like the floor, the walls, the ceiling. All of this place just kind of has like water, just kind of like floating in position, as if like each little side, each little area is holding water like unto itself, and that there's like some sort of weird state that just kind of like holds the moisture in place, where it kind of puddles up in little places, and there's not really a dry bit in any of this area. And you can see as you kind of like cross into it and start to shine light across this area, where you see there's humanoids who are kind of standing in position along these halls that kind of continue off to the north. And you can see that there's like murals on like one side, I think on the east, and then actual statues on the western side. And you can see these animal headed humanoids, most of them in armor, some of them not, all of them wearing or holding rather different weapons. As you start to shine light to the north, you can see that there is a stork closest to you that's holding hand axes. And then just beyond it, you can see like some sort of lizard headed creature that seems to have these like bludgeoning maces. Maybe it's actually meant to be both sides of the hall, actually. Uh, and I think the weapons are coming out of the murals. But you can kind of see like towards the end of it, or towards the end of your light, you can see like a panther seems to be holding blowguns. And then you can see just kind of outside of you, at kind of like the terminus of your view, some other creatures just kind of beyond your sight.
Okay, so is it
I think
like
it's supposed to be paintings, like murals of the people, and all of their hands are actually like weapons protruding, and it's actual weapons.
gotcha? Okay, is it like in the map where there's like one of each on each wall, or is it like one mural of?
So, as far as I can tell from things, it's supposed to be the actual left side of the wall, but I feel like the right side of the wall follows the same pattern, so I don't think there's a reason to say it's one or the other.
Okay, Uranus will look towards Taryn and do.
Right? There's nothing. And Taryn, taking a breath, holding his knives, will take a step in and see what happens.
Yeah, as you step into here, there's no actual like change in effect. So you just have a little bit better view of these creatures.
All right. Go a bit further in.
So as you get a little bit closer, you'll be able to see like the storks on each side of this hallway. There's a male stork. Like it's a male human with a stork head, basically holding these hand axes. And it would be enough at this point that you can kind of make out that the lizard humanoids are like females holding the maces. You can't quite make out the panther from this distance, but you have a feeling at some point you are going to see whether the panther headed creature is like male or female as well. They all seem to be the same, like each stork is male on each side of the hall. Each lizard folk is female on each side of the hall. And then again, stepping into this room, like there's still like water kind of flowing. You can smell like liquid in the air. It's not unclean water. But as you actually step into here, you can hear like what was previously like dripping is now kind of a much more present sound of flowing water.
Kyranos is going to pull out a second dagger and be carrying two, one in each hand. Not sure if that's going to make any difference, but seeing there seems to be two of each weapon here, or two depictions. But otherwise, he's kind of like looking towards Taryn to.
Uh, Terran is gonna. Nothing seems to have happened yet. He's gonna step further in. He's seen like storks and male storks, lizard, female, and then the panther we couldn't see it. He's gonna step up so he can see the panthers. See if he follows the pattern.
Getting a little bit closer, you can start to see like the panthers are indeed males, which might be the pattern that you're looking for, and you start to see that the hawks don't, or on the next creatures that you couldn't see before are hawks, and these hawks don't seem to be carrying any sort of weapon. You'll see that this part of the hall doesn't seem to adorn these creatures with any sort of weapon like that's kind of hanging out into the space of this hallway.
Hey, that's a bit weird from it's been going. Terran is gonna like go up and try to
What are you thinking?
yeah, he's gonna like to the houses they don't have any weapons. Do they have? I don't think I heard it, but like, do they have like outstretched hands, like somewhere to place weapons, or?
So I think kind of the way it's kind of set up here, where all of these people like seem like they're holding the weapons, it kind of describes it as like there's kind of like a hook coming out of the wall. I rather like stick with kind of the idea that it's just kind of like it looks like their hand, and it's almost like a disembodied hand is the 3D effect that we'll call it a hook that basically like rests the weapons on. But as you move forward a little bit more, you'll be able to then spot that there are a goat human beyond that seems to have like a weapon in hand. And then there is a frog human who's beyond that. But about where you're at, and you can start to see these first signs from those other two, you can actually start to spot like in the darkness where there seems to be like a curtain of water just kind of flowing. And while it's not like loud like a waterfall, this is where it's kind of like a fountain where there's an almost like soothing nature to how the water is constantly running, and almost like some sort of kind of controlled splashing. But it doesn't seem to change like the water in this area. Like at your feet, there's no ripples from these splashes. But as you kind of like move forward, um, what were you investigating about the Hawks? Like, do you want a place to hang a weapon?
Yeah, I was thinking like if they had like a hand out, like the others are with the weapons, but place something. But if they don't,
Yeah, so just like looking over them real quick, you don't see anything. Like their hand on the mural is drawn in very similar fashions to the others, the way like the humans' hands are. Maybe posit the idea that like each one has, say, like their right hand kind of at a right angle to their torso, and that's like where the hook holding the weapon kind of sits. But and then each one has like their left hand just kind of down to their hip. The hawk humans are doing the same thing. There doesn't seem to be a hook that's holding a weapon or a hand that's holding this weapon.
yeah, all right. Guess I'm gonna go further in. See if I can find something else.
So you're probably already at the point where you could probably spot that the goat has like a sickle for like harvesting grain, and the goats are males. And then by the time you get to the frogs, you can see that those humanoids are females, and they have a trident in hand.
Right? Not sure if that pattern matters, but there is a pattern of male, female, male, female. I'm kind of just gonna go up to one of the sickles. Just gonna look at it, see. Just gonna see if he can take one.
Yep, you can go to the right side of the hall and a little bit of trepidation, kind of like reach out your hand. And it's not an especially nice sickle, but you can pick it up and it's vastly rusted, but it is actually a operational tool. You could test the sharpness of it. It's certainly dulled by time, but it seems real enough.
But nothing seemed to happen as I took the sickle. It's just I got it. And
That's correct, yep.
So Zeros, maybe Terran's onto something. He going to step up and I think maybe I do the same. Should I take a sickle or maybe a different weapon?
Did you say Zeros on purpose? Do you mean Keranos?
Sorry, I meant Kiranos. Yeah, sorry.
Gotcha.
He might actually. So he's going to come over, and I think he's going to pick up the blowgun.
Gotcha. And you're doing the same thing from the right side of the hall. You're going to take the blowgun from the Panther.
Yes.
Gotcha. Pretty similar thing is going to happen. You reach out, taking it from the Panther human. Nothing seems to happen. I don't know how I'm supposed to say it's tarnished because I feel like blowguns will tend to be wood. So I think maybe you can kind of feel like some moisture in it. It's not like an especially nice thing. Most of these weapons at this point, you guys can probably recognize. Being in this like severely moist environment has done them no good.
Yeah, because he's the Kiranos turning to Terran is like, are you thinking maybe the weapons in hand are these weapons that we need to walk through water? And he'll gesture off towards the to the north of them.
maybe, but I'm still kind of confused by the ones who not the mirrors that didn't have. Thinking there's something with those as well. Not sure yet.
Um,
What do you think, Keranos?
so Kiranos wants to try and like take a closer look at the murals. Oh, but you said there didn't seem to be any hooks or there did seem to be hooks. Sorry, I forget.
So like with the Hawks, they're the ones without weapons. So I would say like on that level, they're like reaching out in the painting, but where the other ones have like an actual like stone hand that kind of like hooks out from the wall and holds a weapon, these are just the two-dimensional painting.
Gotcha. And is there any sign that there used to be like a hook, like any signs of marring or damage to the mural? Like that maybe suggests this wasn't an intentional difference?
Gotcha. And I assume, Taryn, you're kind of doing the same thing. What are you looking for, like on the other side?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow curiously to do the same, basically looking for any kind
Gotcha.
of like.
So let me have the two of you roll investigations here. So as the two of you kind of like work and you're kind of like describing like the same kind of thought pattern between the two of you, you're not seeing any signs that these ever had hands. And you can start to like kind of like feel around these points, and like as you're describing stuff one to the other, everything kind of coincides until Taryn actually starts to feel the actual wall, and your hand goes right through the image before you, and it seems as if you don't have a hand. There's just wall, but you can feel your hand. You can move your fingers. This wall is an illusion.
Yeah, with that, I'm just gonna jump back to Kyrinos. I got something here. Kind of seems like a illusion here with the wall. I show him as I put my hand in, and it disappears.
See what's on the other side?
All right, just a minute, and Terry will actually like cautiously like put his head through the wall just to peek inside, like what's behind.
Ah, you're just putting your head through.
Yeah, just my head. Like that could never go bad, but he's curious about what's behind, but doesn't want to go in yet.
It doesn't actually feel weird. It's just darkness.
Huh. Okay. I pulls back. Can't see anything there. It seems like just darkness. So maybe we just have to step through it.
Kieran's going to hand him the lit pebble. He wants to try, like, if he puts his hand and his head through, if that actually lights up anything, or if it's another kind of like the same magical darkness that you saw back up at the head
Yeah.
of the demon mouth.
Yeah. The Terran will try that to see if there's any light this time.
So you're sticking your head back through and then like your hand with the pebble.
Yep.
So this time, as you kind of like poke your way through, and again, like not stepping into it, you're actually going to find yourself quite happy that you decided not to step into it. As you kind of poke your head through and you reach through with your hand and start to shine a little bit of light, you're just going to see like a little stone plinth that kind of rises up about 4 feet into the air. And the first thing that you're going to see isn't necessarily this stone plinth, but that there is a very remarkable and very similar eyeball staring back at you. There's no eye stalk, just an eyeball. And it's kind of a soft little kind of purple, almost pinkish color. And this eyeball is just kind of sitting on the top of this plinth, probably about 5 or so inches away from your face as you kind of peek through this. Just seems to be looking at you.
Yeah. The Terran will kind of freeze up as at seeing that, and doesn't seem to be reacting to me at all.
Kind of freeze for a moment, and where all of these little eyeballs, the big eyeball, they're flitting and they're like very observant, and you can see the life inside of them. This is an eyeball sitting on a plinth. It's just sitting on a stone tablet. Just sitting. Stationary. Unmoving. Stone? Maybe a crystal. But it looks like the eyeball.
Yeah, with that I'm gonna pull out this, tell Kiernos what I saw, and then yeah. And afterwards he's gonna uh stick his head in again with the hand and everything. Just, I guess it's kind of hard to check for traps with this site, but like just check around to see if there's any obvious traps before walking in.
Roll a perception. Trying to take a quick look. It's more that there's a lack of space than that you can see like much room to do anything. You're not entirely sure how it could be trapped. It seems like just a tiny little stone alcove that just conceals this object.
All right, then and we'll step in. Uh, Once again, he'll check the stone plinth just to make sure.
Does Taryn have a lot of junk in his trunk? Does he have a big butt?
I mean, not really. Comes
So
small.
even as he steps into there, Kyrinos, you're going to see like his backpack is still sticking out. He doesn't have the space to go into this place. His body probably barely disappears. You might be able to still see signs of like his actual like back of his legs and like the back of his body. He's like melded into this wall as far as your view from outside goes.
Gotcha. So Kyrnos might actually be trying to help, maybe like steady him, like to prevent him from like accidentally. Well, I mean, Terran's quick on his, pretty smooth on his feet, but maybe just like with a hand like on his backpack, ready to almost yank if Terran gives a shout or something like that.
So what are you trying to do once you go back inside of there?
Just check the things where the eye, I guess, is, and check it over for any traps before I guess, try to take.
Oh, no offense to you, but you don't know that you rolled an 8 there. This place is not trapped. You already
Oh,
know that.
okay.
That's why.
Then I'll just go in and take it. Then
You pick it up, nothing happens.
all right, then I'll go out and show it to Karen. I was like, you think this might be something special, or you think it's just a nice rock?
Well, I have to think if it was hidden behind such a well-crafted illusion, it might be something of importance. But as to what specifically, right, I couldn't say.
Yeah, my bad. I might have described it as like the full size eyeball. Let's pretend it's like one of the smaller ones. It's about an inch in diameter, or like, what's that, 2.2 centimeters, I feel like.
Oh, okay.
It's much closer to like one of the smaller eye stalks that you've seen than like one of the bigger ones, or like the bigger one.
Is it like smooth around? Are there any like pins or like chips or anything that looks like it might be like opening or
I feel like it's probably worth saying it's rather astonishing, like the level of how perfect this might be, more than that there's like negative qualities like the inclusions and whatnot to it. So I would say just kind of on the level of, um, it may kind of bestow a feeling of like perhaps this is kind of like a magical crystal. Um, but I think beyond that, maybe you would actually need like some sort of stone cunning or some sort of reason to understand more, like jewelry proficiency, if you were a craftsman kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess kind of the thing I like in my head, I'm thinking like maybe it's something like if you look through it, if it does something. So he's almost looking for like a
I think if you look through it, yeah, you would be able to see like it's not like distorting your vision a whole lot. I don't think there would be anything astonishing about looking through it. Just kind of gives everything that little bit of kind of like a soft purple, almost kind of like Easter sort of pastel kind of like filter to it. But more than anything, it doesn't seem to like do anything looking through it.
gotcha. Yeah, so he'll hand it back to Taryn. Definitely curious. And Kyranos, I'm assuming that the Kyranos like didn't like he would have like felt against the wall on the left side, and it's not that one doesn't seem to be an illusion. It's just this one
Yeah,
going
part
on.
of what I'm going at, like with your two movements, like in tandem there, is that like as you start to kind of describe like different things with like more detail, Taryn starts to kind of follow suit with you in the same way that you looked at it first. He kind of followed second. That's kind of what I was kind of getting at there, is that it was the two of you in tandem, perhaps a little bit more driven by you physically like going to touch something that actually drew him to discover like his was illusion. The side that you were on is indeed like actual stone.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's what I figured. Just wanted to confirm. Yeah. So Kyranos is going to look towards Taryn again and look towards the water up ahead of them. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, I just want to check something first, and Taryn will like just check all the weapons around the wall, like all of them, just to see if there's. Because most of them seem like they not fared well with the water and everything. Yeah, it's like with the sickle, they seem rusted, and the wood seems. I guess that would be moldy, right? The wood. One of-
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's not necessarily like I feel like mold is part of what rots wood. It's one of those weird things where I feel like you just kind of notice like there's the change in the qualities of the wood as um what is it? I think it's the actual like fiber that starts to get eaten by wood and starts to turn it to a pulp. But yeah, there's something like mold like to it more than that there's actually like mold growing on the surface of it.
Maybe it feels like a little like spongier than it should, or like brittle or something.
Yeah. I would say it's not necessarily even brittle because often brittle to me kind of feels like it's still hard, whereas like sponge definitely kind of like fits that feeling where you can like pick up the wood and you can like feel like it has more weight to it than the wood should be were it dry, and you can like if you can already feel the sponginess, that wood is like rotten and you could, like crumble it in your hand kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so Taryn just wants to make a quick check with the weapons just to see if any of the weapons seems to have be in better condition than the others.
Gotcha. So you're just going around to these 10 weapons just to check to see for any like qualitative differences on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd say kind of going around the hall. just in pairs, hand axes, maces, blowguns, uh, to the Sith's tridents. All of them seem to kind of suffered from the moisture of this hall in pretty much the exact same ways. The metals are rusted, any like leather is kind of like eaten by mold, and the wood as well kind of has like not necessarily like the spongy qualitativeness to it, but all of them have shown signs like being in this place is destroying them.
Well, if
Is there?
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if nothing seems to like, stand out from the others, then Terran's just gonna go up to the end of the hall here and see if he can peer through.
So you're moving up to the hall and you're going to stick your head in.
Not sure if I want to stick my head in, but seem to work so far. Yeah, I'm gonna stick my head in and see, like just barely in, try to see if I can see through it.
I think you picked up the Sith before. Do you have the Sith in hand right now?
Yeah, I have the yeah, I
Or
would
the
have the
sickle?
sickle in one hand, and yeah,
Gotcha. So as you kind of move forward and start to like look through, the wall of water is effectively opaque at this point, like how it's kind of splashing down. But as you kind of move your first bit of your body into it, I need you to make a dexterity strength saving throw, please.
strength saving throw. Okay.
And this will actually be for all of you. My apologies that it's going to be for Kyrinos as well as, again, I threw your side characters in there. I am assuming, as with most times, you guys have them with you with all things.
Yeah, I mean, it would follow. Let's see. Strength saving throw for her.
Alrighty, so as Terran kind of pushes his head through, the wall of water is going to like almost turn into like a torrent of like a waterfall. And it's going to kind of like slamming down into Terran, pushing back Keranos and pushing back um, Quinn. Keranos and Quinn are going to end up kind of slamming into that southern wall as the water just kind of pushes back. But Terran and Zeros are able to kind of maintain their footing. Quinn and Keranos will kind of fall prone in the actual happening here. And then everybody's going to take what is it? 5 damage for the two who saved Terran and Zeros. Oh, I guess realistically, Zeros has a DC 10 Constitution save. Quinn will have a DC 10 Constitution save, and then Terran will take 5 bludgeoning, and Kyrinos will take 10 bludgeoning. So both of your sidekicks are good on like losing a wound here. But as you touch the waterfall, it like slams down into you all, pushes everybody back in this torrent of water. And the water inside of the hall just kind of melds into the rest of this water, kind of collecting out of here. You don't notice any splashing off into the hall where you came from. You don't notice any signs of it kind of splashing off into that illusory wall. You could look and see, but like you can see like on the actual floor or on the actual walls, it doesn't seem like that's like an outlet. The water just kind of like melds into the rest of what kind of forms around this room, but otherwise almost like magically dissipates and is back to like a soft trickle of this little curtain in front of you where Taryn is.
Yeah, and as that happened, then Taryn is gonna shout down to Kiernos and yes, Quinn as well. Like, are you guys okay?
So Kiernos will get shakily to his feet. He is looking a bit worse for the wear here. Alive, at least. It's,
So either
you,
oh,
you try walking through?
yeah, tried sticking my head through, and that happened. So not sure walking through would be any different.
Just thinking of the plaque.
What did it say again? Walk through water with weapon in hand. So it's doesn't specify hand, so maybe I need to have both sickles?
Just wondering if you have to just walk through, not go all in.
Alright, I guess I could give it a try again. Uh, recommend you others stay outside of the hallway with the water here in case anything else happens again.
Kiranos is going to see, he'll take him up on that. I was thinking maybe like Zeros stay, just, if something happens with Taryn, somebody a little bit closer to keep an eye. So,
I mean,
and
for what it's worth, their ability to soak up damage shouldn't be something that you guys use because you can. Like, use your main character, and like they're more for balancing combat than most things.
all right, then I'll just leave him over here too.
Yeah, I feel like in the long run, like it's legit to use them for a lot of things, but just because on some level. So, are you going now with both sickles on Terran?
No, he's still just keep it with one sickle, but he'll take a deep breath and just try to walk through, not poking his head through or anything, just walk straight through it.
Do you still have the pebble, or are you just going on like the light from your rings?
I think I would have given it back to Kiranos the pebble. But if I'm by myself, I would have light up my rings.
Gotcha. So you can kind of see him off in the distance. There's a little bit of darkness between the two of you, but Kiranos can kind of keep an eye on him, essentially from like outside of the actual water. And you're going to step in with the sickle and just kind of like try to walk through the curtain.
Yep, more purpose this time.
Can step through with the purpose of someone who's going to like walk through a wall of beads into their head shop, and you hear this torrent of water. I need you to make a strength saving throw. This time you will take the full bludgeoning damage of 16 damage as you two are washed away with the water, slammed into the southern side of this hall, and kind of recovering yourself from prone. Didn't work.
Okay, so it's something else. That didn't work.
Maybe it's a particular weapon. I mean, trident seems the most nautically themed of them. Perhaps you need both. You need the pair.
To be honest, I think something with the tridents now that you say it. It's because it clicks. Because wasn't the tridents also the one with the frogs? Oh, the frog headed.
It is indeed.
I'm thinking there is a trickster god that looks like a frog, and that's Nang Nang, right?
There's kind of two, depending on how you look at it. Nang Nang is indeed like the frog humanoid, whereas like this is a human with a frog head, and then Kubazan is the frog hemoth, which is an actual frog with like tentacles.
All right, I
But
forgot
like
Kuba-san.
all of these are more humans with animal heads. So it's like the stork. What was the second one? I'm like on top of zeros. The stork, the lizard, panther, hawk, goat, frog. So if you're thinking nautical themes here, I think you've got three possible things that clue you to that: the stork, the frog, and the trident. But storks, as a nautical thing, they feed on water things, but really they're a flying thing.
Thinking perhaps we try the trident.
Is Kyranos going to head forward and grab a trident and try to walk through the fountain?
Uh, he'll offer to, but he's going to have to heal himself up a little bit before he does that. Because if he's wrong, another one of those walls of water could knock him out. But he will. I mean, yeah, he'll offer to try it.
You're more than welcome to. Yes, safety, and Aaron's gonna go back and put the sickle he took it back into the hand or the book before going back and out of the hallway.
So mending some of your wounds a little bit, kind of like sealing up that like shoulder from the blast. You kind of take a moment to heal yourself. Move forward. You're going to grab one of the tridents or two.
He's gonna grab both, and he'll put the blowgun back to following Terran's lead first, and then he's going to, yeah, I think he'll take a trident in each hand.
Gotcha. Do you do anything with the pebble of light?
Uh,
Or like, do you want to stow it and cast light on something else?
yeah, because I'm wondering. Well, now I'm wondering, slake your shadow at the font. I don't know if this is the font or something else is the font, but he's thinking, that slake your shadow. Maybe that means like get rid of your shadow. Is he? Can you tell if he's casting a shadow with the light currently?
You would be, yes.
And is there, like, if he goes to try and like kind of cover up the light, is there any natural light, or would he be left in darkness if he turned this, like covered up the pebble?
I don't think there is any natural light in this room. I've not come across anything. I would say you guys are the source of light here.
So before he does this, he wants to go and get Terran's thoughts. kind of explain, like, I don't know if this is the maybe this is part of it, or if that the font is referring to something else.
I mean, isn't font something like trying to find the words here, but
Like a well, I think is a good, maybe easier word for you to like know the English version of. I think well, or like spring, like fresh water kind of coming from a spring. Probably good like now shit synonyms for font.
yeah, I was thinking like the things that in when you baptize like a baby in church, they the head down. Isn't that like a font, or am I too wrong?
That's almost like the same way I would say with like an actual spring of water, like where water comes from the earth. So I feel like yes, I think the analogy of those like stone, I mean that's what I would call like a stone plinth basically. It's almost like a bird bath kind of thing where you just have like a little bit of water there.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's an. From what it seemed before, it doesn't seem like the one is like after the sentence is over, since with the period, it seems to correlate to something else. So I don't remember how the other one.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean
that
I
makes
you my bad here, Justin. I gotta give that to you, Chris, because the first definition bringing up for font is like for computers, like for typeface, basically. The second one is a baptismal basin for holding water. And then the third one is a receptacle for holy water.
Oh, okay. Then
yeah,
I wasn't wrong. Woo.
yeah, like I've heard of like baptismal font. That's yeah, I've heard that term or
So one of the things that I'm drawing on is like in like tarot, like one, the aces, they are the font of that kind of magic. So like with one of the tarots that I have, like the one of swords is essentially the font of swords. It is the beginning. It comprises all swords in that they all come from it. In the same way that water, earth, and I can't think of the other one offhand, wands are all kind of in the same thing. So I feel like it all kind of fits into that same idea. Is it's like a receptacle of a holy liquid.
yeah, or like a source of something. Yeah, like the font of knowledge or something like that. Like it's yeah. Yeah, no, but that makes sense, Taryn. Now that I'm thinking about it, it says with weapon in hand, not with weapons in hand. So I think Kyrnos is going to try taking one trident, not two. He'll take the one from the right side and he will try to walk through.
Gotcha. Then do you have the pebble in your left hand?
Yes, he will be then having the yeah, he'll have the pebble out in his open free hand. Yeah.
How scarred is Taryn? Are you watching this?
Yeah, Tam would be watching. Like,
He walks through the water with no difficulties in the least bit. And as you kind of come to the opposite side, you'll see that there are two frogs on either side, females, both of them holding tridents. And you'll see that there are two goats on either side, each of them male, holding sickles. You'll see two eagles on either side, neither of them holding anything. And then you can see that there's more and more things kind of continuing down this hallway. You have a pretty solid sensation that did I walk through the water or am I looking back in on the same hall? But you pass through the water without any problem.
So he's going to try shouting back to Taryn. I mean, I guess Taryn would have seen him kind of. Well, I don't know what Taryn sees, so never mind. I'll let.
Yeah, I mean theoretically he just watched you like walk through the water. Nothing happened. It just kind of passed over you and then you were out of sight.
But otherwise, this kind of seems like the inverse of the previous area, right?
Yeah, about the only thing that you would probably notice pretty quickly just with your own intelligence level is just that both of these frogs are still holding tridents, and you too are holding a trident. Where you know the hall that you just came from, you just picked up one of these tridents.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, Terran seeing that Kurnos could walk through, he's gonna go and take the left side trident and walk through as well.
And you two can pass right through. But now there are no tridents on the other side. So, what would you like to do for your sidekicks?
Uh, Kyrnos is going to try to take one of the tridents from this wall and see if he can actually pass it through.
Yep, no problem. You can just like toss it through, or you could like reach through and drop it, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, and so then kind of when Taryn went, like I assume like Zeros and Quinn would have been kind of watching him. Um, so he's going to Zeros is going to seeing this trident. He's going to pick it up and attempt to follow them through.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how you guys do it, at that point, you've kind of figured out the difference. Like, don't touch this water without having a trident in hand. But essentially, once you guys pass through, like, you could walk back through with one of the tridents from this side if you would like to. But yeah, you guys are on this other side. You can kind of see as you explored a little further before Taryn made his way through, you could see like the same kind of like progression happens in reverse. And you see that there is an opposite hallway where you walk down the hallway on this side as well. Now to your left, that you could kind of head down.
Gotcha. And he's going to suggest to Taryn that he check the walls of the non of the murals where there are no weapons to see if it's similarly like a mirror of the other one if one of these walls is illusory.
Oh, that's smart. If everything is copied, yeah.
So does that mean like Kyranos is going to like the left side to check that same one, and you're sending Taryn off to do the same one?
Yeah. Kyrnos is thinking maybe if one of these is illusory, maybe it's the opposite one if this is like a mirror, but yeah, he'll go to the left and that send Taryn to the right.
Gotcha. So Taryn, you'll have a pretty similar feeling as you go to actually like touch the wall and kind of gain the sensation of your hand starting to pass through it. You have a pretty solid sense idea that you could look through this and you're probably going to find something similar. Would you like to step in cautiously? Would you like to just like jump in? Want to look in? What are you thinking?
Uh, yeah, feeling pretty optimistic. Still light on his rings. He's gonna go in and see if it's the same.
You'll see something pretty similar. It is not entirely the same. You once again see like a stone plinth kind of rising out of the ground. Once again, when you step in, like right at eye height, there is indeed a little eyeball looking back at you. This time, instead of that kind of like soft purple pastel, it's kind of like almost like grass like long into the summer season without rain, where it's almost kind of like a greenish yellow. But it seems to be a pretty similar crystal eyeball looking back at you.
Yeah, I'll take that as well and show it to Kiernos. But, okay, I found another eyeball.
Curious that the colors are a bit different, but and kind of with that, as like he sees that there's a slight difference, Kyrnos now wants to kind of take a look at some of these weapons. Do they seem to be in the same like deteriorated state as the ones on the other side?
Most certainly, yep. The weapons themselves all kind of maintain that same kind of feeling where you see uh, qualities that can denigrate from having water and like this heavy saturation do indeed kind of reflect like the metal is rusted, the wood is not entirely sturdy, any like leather strapping is kind of like worn away.
Gotcha. Yeah, so not quite sure what to make of these eyeballs at the moment, but perhaps their use evident in time. Suggest we continue on.
Yeah. s- Yeah. Continue on.
So as you move further to the north, once again, you'll see that hallway that kind of extends off in what you would expect is kind of the mirror of the hall that you came down. When you actually cast light down the hall, you'll once again see some of the actual growth of this like mycelial matter, pretty much just beyond where the water is kind of sealed from, like exiting this room. In a pretty similar fashion, you're almost like stepping out of this hall and there's just a moment where like there's an inch of water kind of pooling and then you're on dry stone and immediately adjacent to this you're back inside of like this little purple and pink almost jungle of mushroom growth on the stone, and it's probably about 10 or so feet before the hall turns to the right and you can see basically like it's not some mirror of where you've come from. It's similar, but beyond this hall that you've now gone through, it's back to just a 5 foot corridor, about 8 or 10 feet tall, and you're just kind of slowly back on the stonework, kind of trying to find your way between these little blotches of purple. Very quickly, you'll notice the tiny little eyeballs again kind of following you, and they stare at you for 5, 10 seconds before kind of fading back into the growth. And once again, you feel watched, but it's not doing anything to you.
Yeah, so as Kiernos kind of steps through, he's gonna looking back to Taryn, like, should we take these tridents with us or leave a couple because we need to go back
I
through this
think
way.
it's better to leave them, to be honest, because they seem to be like the key to going through that water. So in case, it's better. Sure, how to do that? Yeah, just leave. I think I leave
I
two
mean,
at least.
you know you know that you need them on this side for all four of you. So on some level you don't want to like throw two through to that other side. Unless you guys specifically want to do that. But if you'd like to place two back in the hands and just lean two against the wall, you could do that. If you're just haphazardly like leaving them here, you could do that as well.
I would say put two back up on this side, like in there, like the hooks, the um yeah, and then maybe lean two against the wall. Or do we want to keep one with us? But yeah, like they're in pretty bad shape, so they might.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's better to leave them like on the hooks and on the wall. So, because we have had traps who disintegrate metal. I'm thinking
good
if
point.
we go into one of those and accidentally get rid of our tridents, then we're kind of screwed.
Good point. Yeah. But I would say, yeah, definitely leave all four on this side because that might also, if something was trying to follow us in from the other side, it might prevent them from doing that unless they have their own trident. But otherwise, yeah, ready to once we've kind of done that, try to be kind of like maybe carefully leading them against the wall. I don't want to damage them any further than they already are, um, and then continue on down this new uh, corridor.
Gotcha. So after you stow those, kind of come back to here, you get to the point where you're kind of looking down this corridor. You can pretty well see. What is that? No, it's just beyond what you can actually kind of see. You can kind of see like this hall continues off into darkness beyond your sight. Oh wait, I'm not selecting anything to reveal here. Whoops. The hallway kind of like goes beyond your actual sight line, but you can basically see like more of this purple growth. The hall seems to kind of split, giving you a decision where you could go right or left about midway down. Um, Kind of that's pretty much at the end of your like light, but that's where you're kind of like staring into the dimness. But the colors, you kind of know what to expect. A lot of pinks, like very gaudy kind of pinks and purples, and then very soft kind of earthy stones. But you can kind of see that there's a hall that crosses this area, and then this hall extends on.
So Kyrnos will yield to Taryn to take the lead again, following close behind.
Yeah, and Taryn will go up to the crossing, uh, or stopping trying to look further down the left and right and see find anything.
Gotcha. So from the cross, you can see the end of the hallway. And then you can see at that actual cross, you can go like 5 feet to a dead end to your left, and you can go like 5 feet to a stone wall to your, or to a stone door to your right. I'm actually um, at a kind of good point where I need to take a break. If you guys are down, let's take 15 here and come back at like 20 after or sooner if everybody's all prepared.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, be back in a few.
Are either or both of you back at this point?
I'm back.
So I think one of the kind of weirdest things to always keep in mind is sort of like an actual progression of time. But assuming you guys are like slowly moving a dungeon and debating how used you feel with your like spells and whatnot, I'm guessing we're looking at you guys are like around like 9 to 10 p.m. as far as like not having a good way to really put Kyrinos on a time schedule for Keen Mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think technically it's supposed to tells him when the next sunrise is, but I don't know if that works when he's not outside.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like on some level that's one of those things where you just kind of have to gray it out and kind of give him a sense of feeling like hours going by kind of thing. But yeah, I it's one of those subtle things where I'm not trying to like negate one of the aspects of Keen Mind is definitely basically having the closest thing to a watch in this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mostly got it more for so he can recall um like the the plaques essentially from like memory, or if like he hasn't been in that section, like in that first section with all those traps that we tried to kind of map out. But it'd be more of that sort of thing, more so than the time aspect of it.
I gotcha. It's I still feel like it works kind of as like a semblance of, normally I feel like adventurers can kind of recognize just how tired you feel. So
Yeah, and Kiranos is definitely pretty beat up. He's kind of fatigued, running fairly low on kind of mental energy at this point. So yeah, he's probably ready for a rest fairly soon.
Yeah, hi, I'm back.
excellent. We're just kind of discussing like a rough time frame because he has keen mind, and there's no like easy way to kind of give him that sense. But we're basically just like I was basically sharing. I had this session starting around 8 o'clock. I feel like it's pretty solid to say it's like 9 or 10 in the evening at this point. Just to kind of keep you comprised of, this is kind of like 2 hours or so since that like eye stalk blasted Kiranos kind of thing. But we're basically picking up as you kind of stepped into that like central portion of the hall. You could see that there's, like 5 or so feet that you could go to the west, and then like 5 or so feet before there's a stone door to you to the east. And there's probably about 10 or 15 feet beyond to the north before this hall kind of turns to the west or to your left. That's another thing. Keen Mind makes it really nice to actually tell you guys like cardinal directions instead of usually when I use cardinal directions, I feel bad because like it makes it good and easy to describe the map. But often the best part of being in the dungeon is you start to get turned around and you're like, I mean, I know this is a left, but I don't know what direction I'm facing anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely too easy to get into the you know uh, up is always north, and yeah, I mean it makes it easier to like describe, but obviously it's not always going to be the case that up is north and right is east and
It,
left is
it
west.
robs like some of the horror of actually feeling lost and like the
Yeah,
claustrophobia. Because I definitely feel like claustrophobia sets back in when you're like inside of a maze and you're like, yeah, I don't even know how to get out of here anymore.
yeah, you start second guessing yourself. Did I go left or right here? Or
So looking down these corridors, Taryn, are you thinking about the door? Or are you thinking about continuing forward?
I'm thinking about the telling Kiernan as well. There's a stone door here. I want to see what's behind, and Kieran's gonna walk up to it and inspect it for the traps, like going over it, see if he finds anything.
Roll a perception. Door does not seem to have like a locking mechanism to it. You don't seem to see anything that seems like barring your entry or that would be hindered or gives you any signs of any traps.
All right, and with that, it's gonna try to open the door.
Okay, give me 1 second here. So when you go to open the door, immediately everybody is going to smell kind of a savory, like fresh kind of mutton smell with herbs and spices. And you can kind of feel like a little blast of kind of warmer air almost coming out of the doorway. And as the light from your rings initially first casts into this room, you can see that there is a small cauldron of liquid like on the ground, and gain a very quick sensation that this like little uh jar, or this little cauldron of uh liquid, is a warm soup that apparently someone is cooking, and you've just kind of like stumbled into it. As Kyranos kind of like comes up behind you and sheds a little bit stronger of light beyond, you're going to see that there is somebody just about 15 or so feet on the opposite side of this cauldron of soup, and they are standing with their back towards you. They're about like 4 or so feet tall, kind of like a almost like golden reddish hair, and it seemed to be kind of like cast in shadow. It's very hard to make out a lot of things about them, but they seem to be kind of wearing a backpack and having like leather kind of cascading across themselves, almost as if they're wearing like a traveling cloak. And they're opening a door away from you, about 15 feet away, on the opposite side of this cauldron.
The the figure, does it seem to be? I tell if it's moving or doing anything, or is it just standing still?
It's like opening the door. Are you just standing still staring at it?
I'm gonna like with my hand that's not opening the door. I'm gonna try to like wave while looking at that figure.
You're waving while looking at the soup?
Yeah.
It seems to be waving to somebody beyond this hallway.
Okay. And it did that at the same time as I did. That hmm. I'm gonna tell Kiernos. I'm telling him what I see. Basically, is
Kyranos is going to try to call out to it, like a hail, or to see if it responds.
Call out doesn't seem to respond in the least bit.
Kyranos is going to look towards Taryn and kind of um, nod, like it's in, like, let's maybe should we go in,
yeah.
get a get a better look.
Yeah, and Kyrie's gonna step in and well, keeping his eye on the figure at all times, basically.
As you step in, it steps through the door. My bad. I'm just noticing how poorly aligned this map is with the actual battle map.
Are we able to see whether this figure bears any resemblance to the one that we saw in the room with the boat? You said he was about 4 feet tall, and the other creature was a dwarf.
Yeah, this one's probably on like the 3 foot end of like 3 to 4 feet tall. I think the dwarf probably would have been a little bit bigger, and I think the dwarf was armored and carrying a shield. So I think you've got a pretty good sense that this is something else.
Right, right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Oh, I think I got this one. Yeah. I'll remind Kieros about the Azrax warning, like slake your shadow at the font. I'm thinking that's my shadow. Seems to be mimicking me. I'll try to do like a little small dance, well, just to see if it copies me entirely.
It will indeed do the same dance.
That's odd. Do you think you need to try something from that bowl then? Cauldron?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to figure out how would I would slake my shadow that, but
You were to dip a spoon or something into it, if it's going to copy you,
My bad. That was purely because I didn't want to make it too obvious at the get go that I dropped the one instead of Terrence.
because if it's copying you, if you eat, it eats. You drink, it drinks.
yeah, probably. You stay in here and watch what happens. Gonna try to like turn around so that my shadow
When
would face
you
it.
turn around, Kyranos will notice it doesn't turn around. Its back is still facing towards where Terran is. It's still facing away from you.
So Kieran also note that to Taryn.
Huh, okay, so that doesn't work.
Do you step out of the room? I feel like I might have interrupted your thought, but I wanted to. That is the first time that you notice like something's different. You've only seen this thing's back so far.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was to like turn around and have it face the front and then step out and try to mimic.
So step out of the room,
Yeah, I'll try it still. But step out of the room so that it's by the ballroom, and then
and
like
it's still facing away from the cauldron. So if Keranos relays that to you, do you step another 5 feet and another 5 feet out?
yeah, actually there is room there. I am gonna move and
And it does the same. It's now facing the cauldron, still facing away from you.
well, seeing as it doesn't seem to care which way I'm facing, I'm gonna come back so I can see. The
You
door
can
is still
see it
open.
like looking towards the cauldron.
And then I'm gonna try to this is weird, I guess, but I'm gonna try to like mime bending over what's the color so that I can, or like my shadow can drink it, I guess. Almost like putting my head down into it, just drinking.
Gotcha. So just like kind of like leaning over and like putting your lips down into the liquid, and you're just like kind of inhaling, kind of sucking up soup.
Yeah, I mean, someone just seeing Terran standing out there doing in nothing, mimicking that's probably weird, but yeah.
I mean, you could potentially grab your actual like bowl that you would eat from and actually do this. But when you do that and kind of like lean over just like any other animal at like the drinking hole on the savannah, it leans over, and as you kind of start to slurp into the air, it's leaning forward and starts to slurp up the soup. And Kyrinos will notice as slowly the soup starts to move down. How long do you do that for?
Yeah, and Kiranos would be saying like it's working, like letting Terran know. Or
I'll,
seems to be.
I was curious to tell me that, then I'll probably be doing it until there's no more liquid.
Gotcha. So a few minutes go by as you kind of like continue, and you're like really starting to wonder like what's the point of this? Like, is anything like really happening here? As 5 minutes go by, and you continue.
I mean, it's good, but I'll probably continue, but I'm gonna ask Kyrinos first. Then, like, can he see anything?
Oh,
And
I said that way too long. My bad. It's not 5 minutes. It's like 5 rounds. It's like 30 seconds go by, and then in under a minute, it actually like drinks up all of the liquid inside of there.
oh,
And
okay.
Keranos, you'll see that there's a tiny little crystal about 1 or so inch in diameter, and it's of this kind of like orange stone that is actually kind of like incandescent, kind of shedding a little bit of light at the bottom of this cauldron.
So Kiranos will kind of note that to Terran, like there's something at the bottom, and he is going to try to pluck it out of the from the cauldron.
Tell me, when you reach down into the cauldron, do you look at Terran's shadow, or are you just focused on the stone?
I think he would be, yeah, he would be keeping an eye on the thing, like as he starts to move to see if it reacts.
Taryn, are you reacting at all as Karen says this to you? Karen says this to you.
Well, yeah, if we can see him, probably gonna stand up like regular. Can Yeah, basically just stop drinking. It's gonna take.
So when he stops drinking and it stands, does that like pique your interest at all, or are you still just going for the stone?
So Kiranos like he's gonna stop with his hand, and he's thinking maybe the shadow needs to pick it up. So he's gonna to Terran suggest like gonna try and describe like where this the stone at the bottom of the cauldron, and see like maybe if same thing with the soup, you reach down and like mime picking it up. If the shadow picks it up, see if that does it. And I had a second
So
thought about just plucking it up himself.
you would have seen as the shadow actually walked through this font in the center of this room. It did not interact with this. It wasn't until it was drinking the soup that you actually saw a change. When Taryn was like walking out of the room, there would have been a point where this thing was standing inside of the soup.
Okay, so it's like incorporeal, so maybe it won't be. Maybe his hand will just pass right through it. Um,
Do you want to go ahead though and see if Taryn can have it lift the eye out?
I think it's still worth a shot. Yeah.
All right, and then Terran will try to mime like asking Kiernos as he watches, like if I'm getting like in the right position, try to get to the crystal.
Gotcha. With a little bit of kind of like shared effort, he can kind of guide you towards it. And as you go to grasp the eye, the shadow goes to grasp. Can't touch it.
So Kyrnos will relay that to Taryn, kind of okay. And at that point, um, he is going to still trying to keep an eye on the shadow. Is will go himself to try to pluck out the crystal.
So let me ask again then. If you're trying to keep an eye on the shadow, you've not yet seen Taryn Shadow's face. Are you looking like Taryn in the eye? What are you thinking here when you're keeping an eye on this thing?
Oh, yeah. I guess he would want to get like a look at its face.
It was
Yeah.
a trick question. Let me get a wisdom saving throw from you. So, as you look into his eye, you are going to see that this is indeed not Terran. This is the same demonic face that you've seen everywhere in this place. It is a bearded humanoid with horns coming out of the top of his head, and his mouth is wide in the most horrific of screams. And as you see this for a moment, you feel a rush of fear. Steady yourself, look away, divert your eyes. You can reach in if you would like and grab the crystal. Have a solid sense. Don't look this thing in the eye.
Yeah. So he will. Yeah. As he kind of manages to almost feel like maybe like his sanity was about to snap, but he kind of is able to avert his eyes and probably like actually physically shut them before, and he will warn Taryn like, "Don't look it in the. It's not your face. Don't look it in the eye." But yeah, he will otherwise take the crystal and then pretty quickly try to. Well, actually, he doesn't want to pass through this thing. So kind of keeping his eyes averted, he'd like call out to Taryn, like, you, you know, try and get it to move so I can get out back out of here.
Yeah, you can like call him back towards the room. Even just saying like come back into the room. You'll basically see as Taryn walks towards you, it once again walks through this cauldron, and as Taryn like gets closer and closer, um, if he stays at the doorway, it's gonna stay there. If Taryn actually walks back in, it would come into that little spot there. But like if Taryn stays at the door right there, it's going to remain right there.
Okay, yeah, he just basically just doesn't want to like try and walk through it. So yeah, once Taryn moves enough to give him some space, he will, still keeping his eyes averted, move to back out of the this room.
It was purely because you were standing next to it. Again, this thing's back is always towards that door. You've never seen its back kind of adjust from that. It was more because you were in a precarious position, and then also saying that you were keeping an eye on it. That I basically asked that.
Yeah, and Kyrnos is not the wisest person, so his curiosity would definitely be yeah.
Yeah, so even as you kind of like head out of this, you can maybe like even kind of like still trying to like look through the corner of your eye as you're shutting the door behind you. You can still see it like standing inside of the cauldron as Taryn makes space for you to step into the hallway. You would notice like it's stepping one step closer to you. And as you close the door, your last sight is basically of it standing inside of that cauldron.
Gotcha. So yeah, once he's back safely outside and with the door closed, he'll kind of give a shudder um, and show Taryn the crystal that he picked up.
Right. Oh, That was oh, we solved that one. The plaque at least.
And is this crystal of like a similar size to the eyeballs that Terran found? Is it smaller, larger?
Let me have both of you roll investigations. These are three of the exact same eyeballs. Only the color seems to be different.
Huh.
Hmm.
And kind of falling into like that same kind of crystal idea of like inclusions and whatnot. Like their perfection is also kind of like the same in them. Like nothing about these tells you these are normal.
Yeah, I have a feeling these might come in be important at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the first one I could maybe think like it's just a bit of treasure. Maybe second one, three, and they're all same except for the color. Then seems to be have some importance.
I guess really I should say the one difference right now is that the orange one actually does shed like a little bit of light. So theoretically it creates a like 5 feet of dim light if you were in darkness.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I actually went back to confirm like why, but like the other two don't say incandescent. That one says incandescent. So I feel like I should give it some quality of light.
Yeah, makes sense. So Kieran might hold on to this one. Aaron's got the other two, but he'll otherwise put it away in like a pouch for now. Should we take a look up this way, Taryn? Kind of pointing off. Not sure if that's a dead end or be thorough.
Yeah, let's see what we can find. And Taryn will continue forwards down the hallway.
Are we going back to Terran, Kyrinos, Zeros, Quinn? I kind of move the sidekicks.
Yeah, I think we'll be back in our usual marching order, Taryn, unless you have a thought.
No, I mean that's fine with me. So
So I would say at this point here, Terran, you're going to kind of like walk around that edge and see like the hall kind of continues on for about like 15 feet to the west of you. Assuming you guys are still kind of continuing forward with kind of like slow movements and being pretty cautious about things, you will kind of notice that there is inside of kind of like some of the growths of this purple and just kind of some of like the I want to say detritus, like just like the scattered junk that kind of collects in a place like this. You can spot that there is a tiny little crawl space on kind of the northern side of like the stonework where it's free enough space for you to climb through. You certainly wouldn't be able to just carry all of your gear into it, but you could kind of like move forward with it kind of dragging behind you. Kyrinos would have a pretty tight fit, and someone like Quinn would have to disarm to actually go in there. But there's a crawl space there. The actual hall does indeed kind of continue down to the south from there. As Kyrinos is following you and you're kind of looking over these things, Kyrinos, you're going to notice that how tall is Kyrinos?
1 second.
Just about 6 feet
Five
though?
5'10", little under.
Yeah, so just kind of like above your eye line, you can see just like a hole in the stone that just kind of like passes through the stone. And with like a little bit of effort on your tippy toes and kind of looking through, you can see that there's like signs of Terran moving forward. You can kind of see the light kind of coming through. Do you want to shine like the light behind you so you can see further into this little hole?
Yeah, I think Kyrnos would. He'd called a Terran, and then he would try to peer through with
Gotcha.
what he
So
called.
Taryn, as he kind of calls out to you, and you're kind of like rounding this corner, you can already start to spot that there is some sort of statue on like the southern side of where this hall is going. When Kyrinos takes the time to look through this hole, you can actually see that it is indeed looking to something. And you can kind of see like a golden crane, and it seems to kind of hold its wings almost in like a circular pattern. So like its arm or its wings kind of like extend out and the tips kind of come back towards its feet, but basically again like kind of making a relative like circle with its beak just kind of beyond the circle, and you can see like its feet kind of just beyond the circle, and you can see as you're kind of looking through it, like just below the actual gold of this medallion is just a little bit of kind of a triangular open, and you can see a smaller crane inside of this. In a relatively familiar hieroglyphic symbol that resembles the crane that you saw on the floor of Yi Jin's temple.
Okay, so maybe we found the walls of history. This is
I feel like I described the amulet incorrectly though, because I forgot that it was Yi Jin's and I described it like it was Papa Zotel's.
I got you though, but the hieroglyph is similar to the one we saw, yeah, on the floor.
Yeah, it doesn't even describe the medallion in the least bit. So just like gather that you're looking at like a golden circle, and then you can see kind of like a top sort of triangle of it that's kind of indented, and that's where you can see like the crane like a hieroglyph in kind of the top center. It'd basically be like if it were a clock between say like 11:30 and like 1:30 is like the opening of this gold, and you can see the stone behind it.
Gotcha. And this is basically so I can look through this, but it would be difficult to like try to actually reach through and take the medallion. Is the hole large enough for that?
Yeah, it's a tiny little hole. If you wanted to try to like reach something through, you could certainly try. Um, you could potentially do something like lift Taran up and have him like potentially like reach through with one of his 10 feet staff.
What do you think, Taryn?
Honestly, I'm not sure what to think here. Thinking that you're supposed to look through the people. Want to take it. I'm not sure though. Kinda looking at the Asterix third warning plaque, and
Should we look to see if there are any other of these holes anywhere else along this hallway?
yeah, we can do that. That's like a good. Do we find if they show us the steps, maybe?
I'm wondering what right the gods might mean.
So let me get, I think perceptions from you both here. So looking through this actual hall, you guys don't really spot any other signs of any of these like holes in the stone. But at some point, Taryn, you're actually going to round that actual corner, and you will eventually spot that there is indeed a stone kind of blocking this corridor. And it seems to be a large, kind of jackal headed person, very similar to the jackal head you already looked through, or rather, I guess Kyranos kind of looked through to see the dwarf inside of Ijin's temple. And you see this jackal is wearing a golden medallion, of the same description of the one that Kyranos kind of described. And you kind of like look back and you can see there's a similar hole in this side of the stone that's like directed towards where this medallion is.
Uh,
Gross.
sorry. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanna make clear that I heard everything. Like it's a stone jackal and medallion, like the one that Kiernos had seen through.
So like I guess kind of the difference, maybe I didn't like clarify this well. It's a similar like jackal head, but this one is like in two dimensions, almost like a bas relief where it's just like an inch or two. So it's like done in 2D with little bits of kind of dimensionality to it. But the jackal is wearing a golden medallion around its neck, and you can see the sign of the hole in the stone on the east side of that hall, which is what Kyranos is looking through.
Oh, okay. I for some reason thought that like it was a whole stone jackal. I don't know why I got
Yeah, yeah. It's a very large kind of like you're basically looking at another wall of this building. Realistically, with that 17 perception and like kind of looking at traps, you can kind of sense like this is a stone that will move and probably will also potentially trap you somewhere, like a room filled with bugs that are going to destroy and eat you.
yeah, that doesn't fill me with confidence. Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna. Terrence gonna look over the whole stone, like fine tooth comb, like going over everything with it just to see.
Roll an investigation. So the actual medallion on this jackal is probably like an inch or so high. The level of detail that Kyranos described this thing to you is astonishing for how small it is and the fact that he's 15 feet away looking through a peephole. You have a solid sense that there is some sort of magnification from the peephole that is staring at this medallion, and in part might be why Kyranos can't describe anything other than the medallion. That peephole is designed for looking at the medallion. You can also see that while this stone moves, it's potentially something that you could actually I think lift out of the way without being entirely clear whether it comes up out of the ground or lowers out of the ground. But the stone moves, and you could potentially move it. And also, again, you already know it's trapped because the whole point is that it locks you into that room, and if you fuck up, you get eaten by bugs. There's no actual other traps than that. It's a pretty effective trap inside of there. You guys probably at this point should start to recognize that as far as a lot of traps go, a Sararak is perfectly happy for you to know exactly what is coming to you. Just make mistakes on how it's coming to you.
Yeah, this guy really seems to like to fuck with people.
All right, so Kyrnos is trying to recall the layout of the tiles or the hieroglyphs from when we had descended before. And he's thinking, okay, so we know the vulture is the first safe step. And then is there a crane? Is there a crane next to that?
Oh, my bad. I did a terrible job improvising that description. There's a whole other part of this that I was supposed to bring up. The jackal is being eaten by locusts. And with a 24, I should probably also describe one of those locusts looks like a button.
Oh, uh, yeah. Then Terran's gonna press the button.
No hesitancy. My bad there, Justin. Does that change what you were just thinking about right there?
Uh, Probably, but I don't think he. I mean, Terran didn't say, I'm going to press the button. He just pressed the button, so I don't think Kyrnos would have been able to stop him.
I mean, it's perfectly plausible that as he initially started to discover that, like, there's like an actual like sight through this wall, that you would at least be around there near him. Does it change anything about what you're thinking if you're basically like watching him press the button? Do you want to roll initiative to see if you can actually like interrupt him? I'm
Yeah, he
perfectly
might.
happy if you guys roll initiative to see, like, if you're being hesitant and Taryn, I mean, Taryn also, theoretically, you still have, the koala bear guy in you who's supposed to be cautious. So
All right, yeah.
I'm tempted to
Hmm.
say, like, even rolling initiative, there's probably good reason to say Kyranos has advantage.
Yeah, I do think Kyrnos would try to essentially kind of like, yeah, grab his hand before he presses the button and like, let's think about this.
Yeah, probably. And Ubalaka, right.
Yep, Ubalaka, there we go. So imagine the hesitancy of that. Is that enough, Taryn, where you're perfectly happy with letting Kyranos kind of like pause for a moment? Let's think about this a little bit more. Otherwise, I'd say advantage to Kyranos on a dexterity, and Taryn, let me get a dexterity.
I mean, I think that hesitation would be enough because he would probably, like, Terran normally would want to press the button, but with Ubalaka would probably be like, this is not good idea.
Gotcha. So you guys can pause him for a moment as he's reaching out for this locust that's clearly some sort of a button here. And now, what were you thinking there, Kyranos?
Yes, well, so it's again, okay, these locusts are eating the jackal. Um, and we saw the locusts, or Kyrnos saw the locusts like swarming the dwarven shadow or shade or whatever it was. So his first thought is pressing this button might activate something. Um, and he's still thinking about the. So looking at this medallion on the jackal, the not magnified one, is it still just the same like the crane hieroglyph? Are there any other symbols or?
Um, I'm not even sure how easy it is to spot from this side. Um, I think you could probably make out enough that there is that like indentation, but that's part of why like I'm tempted to say the medallion on the jackal is only about an inch in diameter. When you're looking through the peephole, it's all you can see, and you can see the crane perfectly clear. But that's why I want to say from this side, you can probably make out enough to recognize that it's the crane, but when you're looking directly at it with your face right next to it, it's just difficult to make out because it's so small.
Okay. And so Kyrnos does have those eyes of minute seeing. Would that assist at all in this?
What are those? Advantage on a perception? I guess they're kind of going for the
Investigation.
idea.
Like you can see much better than normal out to a range of 1 foot. So, but I don't know. I mean, my other thought was if we try to reach in and
I feel like
manipulate.
that's one of those weird things where there's a certain level of like yes and no. Maybe your eyes of minute seeing give you like a little bit of magnification, but it's still not as easy as looking through that peephole.
Gotcha. Because my other thought was if we tried to maybe if Taryn who's got probably smaller fingers or can use maybe like a lockpick or something to reach through and manipulate the medallion through the peephole, maybe with it magnified, maybe there's other things we can see, like if we try to turn it or something like that.
Well, see, again, Taryn actually saw like the side of this stone. That peephole goes through the stone. And I mean, at this point, like you could like look through the opposite end of that peephole if you wanted to.
Yeah, actually, why not try that? If Kiranos watches through the people and Terrence tries to like it stick out a bit, right? So if we can try to turn the medallion, see if anything changes.
Gotcha. So you're like sending Keranos back to like where your token is right now,
Yeah, I mean if he's fine with that.
Yeah. Yep.
and you want to try to manipulate the actual medallion on the statue, like on the block.
Yeah.
So I would say with that one, you probably have a solid sense. Like you could, if you wanted to, like use a hammer or something to damage the medallion, but you can't like manipulate it with your fingers. You could try with your daggers to try to like scratch it to move it. You don't have any solid feel that there's a way to move this like manually. But again, if you wanted to, you could try to break the stone and get at the medallion.
No, I'm not gonna try that. Just wanted to see like if I could turn it, if we can maybe get like a path to follow.
Kyrnos would be up for maybe trying to kind of break through the stone and actually get a hand on the amulet or the medallion.
All right. Okay. Then I'll if you're up for that. Then Aaron is gonna pull out his hammer. Not sure, like, could it go? I don't have a chisel, but I do have like what they're called.
Try to use like almost like a python as like a makeshift chisel. Probably it's cruder, but
Yeah, basically that's what I was thinking.
Gotcha. So like hammer and chisel, basically, kind of like using like some climbing gear to kind of like make this happen. You can start to damage the gold medallion, and eventually expose that there is indeed a wheel inside of it. You can kind of at first probably seeing like the first little bit of your work. You could spot that like on one side of the crane, to the right is I know I have the order somewhere here. I just have to find where it is. All right, so when you expose like the bit of the coin, you can see that the bird like towards the top where it was exposed, and then you've got like the snake to the right of it, and then you've got the urn to the left of it. And then if you continued, you could further destroy more and more of the medallion to expose more and more of this.
Kiernos would be for continuing.
Do you continue? Are you ready, Taryn?
Yeah, Terran is gonna continue.
So a little bit more effort, you can kind of get the rest of the gold kind of like broken away from this, exposing basically that there's a wheel like on like a central peg that it kind of rotates on. But if you'd like, you could remove the wheel. But otherwise, at present, you can see that the actual cycle goes vulture, serpent, door, reed, scarab, scepter, foot, urn, vulture, serpent, door, and so on. Do you want to um take it with you?
Might as well. You think, Taryn?
Um, I'm feeling kind of hesitant, but if you're sure, yes, I could take it. Not really sure if that would help though. Maybe know which order it would turn.
Perhaps this is where Right the Gods comes in. As we know, the vulture is the first step. We go to the right of that on the wheel. Initial thought.
The right would be the serpent. Do you pull it off pull the dial off and take it with you? Do you press the beetle and move forward?
So many choices. I am curious about the button. I am really curious about the button. That's not just Karen, that's me as well. I'm really curious about the button.
Kiernos would suggest we take take this wheel with us.
All right, yeah, I'll try to take the wheel.
Roll a Constitution saving throw for me, Taryn. As you reach out for the wheel, you're going to hear a little bit of a hiss as and kind of a golden greenish gas starts to pour out of a few holes that are behind the disc and start to fill up the few feet of like where you're standing.
Sorry, Taryn.
No problem.
One of those was because the second one wasn't coming. But sadly, that is still plenty of damage. You do save as this acid starts to like pour over your flesh and starts to burn you. You are going to take 20 points of acid damage as it just starts to coat over your body, and you feel like just this awkward burning sensation. I believe that's going to leave you still standing at present.
No, that is actually just enough to get me down.
So you'll watch as he kind of like falls to the ground, and you can start to see as his flesh is like burning away, starting to expose muscular tissue beneath, and Taryn is unconscious.
Yeah, so Kyranos, feeling very guilty, is going to rush over and give him a cure wounds.
I mean, that first roll was pretty hardcore on keeping it low too, but the second one made up for it. So you can take 25 hit points back to yourself, Taryn. You still probably feel like your flesh almost starting to like reconstitute over some of your muscles, and probably one of the more horrific wounds for Kyranos to see in quite some time. But he has the disc in hand. You guys have the stone in front of you, still blocking your way. What would you like to do?
So I guess it comes down to press the button or don't press the button.
I mean, to be honest, after that trap we activated, I am hesitant to press the button.
We try to move the jackal head without pressing it.
Yeah, we can try that first. See if anything happens. Like, how do we want to move it? Want to lift it or push it or?
I could also try and move away and press the button with a mage hand.
Oh, that is an idea. I like that idea.
I mean, I can only get 30 feet away, but or
I
maybe
love
not
that
even.
you just I love that you just watched him have acid pour over his flesh, and you could have grabbed it with a mage hand.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. That is, yeah, Kyrnos again, not the wisest. But he will offer to press the button with the mage hand, belatedly realizing that he should have done that. The medallion.
Yeah, with that terrible. Yeah, that seems like a good idea, and like giving you a bit of side eyes as he moves away.
So you guys can indeed kind of like step back down the hallway. I feel like on some level you could either like go backwards and just be as far away from it in sight. You could go back and kind of look through the peephole. You could potentially like position the hand in front of the button and try to just move what you assume is 30 feet away. How did you want to go about that?
Yeah, so um, yeah, maybe he would go on the other side of the peephole, try to watch from there as he then has the mage hand press the button.
Gotcha. So as you press the button with the mage hand, the jackal is going to start to sink down into the ground. You'll start to see the skeleton of the dwarf inside. You see the familiar boat sitting atop the ziggurat, the familiar hieroglyphs on these tiles across this room. It's, as you all somewhat expected, the sarcophagus of Ijin is inside of this room. So, this is one of those moments where, again, I feel like I might have missed the descriptor here. You've got to kind of recognize that I'm pretty sure you would have seen that when the dwarf stepped through, stepping on the crane started to move that block into place. You are potentially looking at one, maybe two people are getting inside of this room safely and calmly. You know another way to get more people into the room, but that's through the roof. I think you have a solid idea that you could guess ahead of time and understand what order people would need to step on things in, but you're kind of like rushing into the room to do that. Bringing four people in here might be more dangerous than bringing one person in because you have a semblance of these need to be stepped on in the right order. If you have somebody step on it behind you, you don't know what that'll do.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe we probably just Taryn and Kyranos. But the order I'm thinking, um, I'll do a little line here.
So if the vulture is first and you were to go counterclockwise, you're looking at vulture, urn, foot, scepter, scarab, reed, door, serpent. Yeah. And then if you're looking at it clockwise, you're looking at vulture, serpent, door, reed, scarab, scepter, foot, urn.
Is that the scepter? I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Basically like that, I think. Scepter, foot, urn. Because he's thinking right the gods, so he's thinking we go right on the wheel. So clockwise, I guess. Or if it was counterclockwise, yeah, it would be
Well, to be sure, we'll notice which way we're supposed to go if when one of us steps on to the snake or urn.
yeah, counterclockwise. I'm not sure that works unless I'm at the
That doesn't seem like it, because it would start with urn, then foot, then scepter.
scarab. It would
Scarab.
be reed, but I don't see reed next to the scarab if we go counterclockwise. So I'm thinking we go clockwise, so right, so that first line that I suggested. Yeah, but I think at most two people should come in here.
Yeah, I'm all for that. That seems like the only way to get this to work. Yeah.
And Kyranos feels bad about not protecting Taryn from that poison, so he's willing to take the lead here, try his idea.
I mean, that's fine with Terran.
Well, here goes probably everything.
So essentially, the plan here is to have Kyrinos go first, and Terran is following directly behind him.
Yeah, I'll leave it up to Tarrant if you want to be like essentially one block behind.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Taran would follow. Would be like basically one step behind.
Gotcha. So the moment he steps onto the crane, that block is going to start to rise out of the ground. I need Terran to make a dexterity saving throw.
I probably would make this dexterity, but I am not taking chances, so I'm gonna use my inspiration on that one.
Oh wait, what do you have inspiration for right now?
I think I rolled a natural 20 or something.
It's on ones though right now. I was actually looking at it. Kyrinos would have earned inspiration with his
Oh, it's only
perception
a
check up there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give him my inspiration.
So you can use the inspiration here if you would like. You can make this dexterity saving throw with advantage, sir.
that I would like.
And Kyrinos, I dropped a fresh icon, or I think you did. Are you properly represented at like in a non-bloodied state right now, or are you bloodied?
Oh no, I'm bloodied. I just forgot to add it.
Gotcha. So if you guys have the order in mind, one kind of convenient thing with Terran kind of following behind you here is that technically he can move through a space that you are on as a creature that is larger than him. So it makes it much easier to imagine like you guys are almost like stepping on these spaces, pretty much like in sync kind of thing. But with those in mind, as you guys kind of step through, going to the crane, this thing will immediately start to slide up to the roof. You'll hear that kind of grinding. Terran's able to just leap out of it. For a moment, you guys can hold that same space, but essentially, the moment he's jumping into the crane, you kind of have to move ahead and continue to kind of like follow this pattern of you can kind of step to the next one. Terran kind of immediately follows right behind you. You don't seem to see any reaction from these sphinxes at this point, so you guys can move to your next spaces here. Kind of continuing on like in this like just kind of quick little instance here basically, this is going to take you just about 8 seconds to move, these kind of 40 feet, and you kind of keep kind of moving across, no seeming any change or anything from any of these sphinxes as you take the next square, and then you go for the scarab, doesn't seem to be anything changing. You go for the scepter, doesn't seem to be anything changing. Step back to the foot, and then the moment you step on the urn, you're going to hear a as the sarcophagus of Ijin kind of like cracks open, and the lid starts to kind of like lift to the side, and you will see inside of the sarcophagus, kind of just above your eye level, I think, as it opens up. So you would have to kind of climb the actual ziggurat again to get a view of it. But you can see inside the little bones of a tiny little rabbit, including kind of this unicorn-like horn. And then the stone block at the entrance would sink and return to kind of the floor, so you can see back out. You would be able to see like Zeros and Quinn, probably like I think they would need to have like a torch lit, otherwise they're kind of hanging out in the dark there. And yeah, you guys can kind of look into Ijin's. You can see and actually look what its treasure looks like. Um, oh yeah, I feel like it's actually the spiral horn. I think it's meant to be. Most people would be drawn to a unicorn. I think of that as entirely uninteresting, but um, you guys can. I assume most people would think, "Oh, I should grab this unicorn horn."
Yeah, I think Kyrinos will will reach for it. I'll probably have to climb up on here first.
Yeah, again, you would have to climb up onto the ziggurat just to be able to see in. I think the actual sarcophagus would be just about your eye height, anyways. But when you climb up there, you can kind of see like the sarcophagus is opened, and I think it leaves it like this because to most people it would be immediately what you think of is to take the horn. So when you grab the horn, still kind of with this expectancy that you should immediately feel this presence of a god, you pick it up. Nothing happens. You have a solid sense that there is magic inside of this horn. You could potentially cast something if you would like to. You could kind of like sling a spell across the room and see what it does.
He's thinking maybe he wait to do that until we're out of this death trap, just in case.
So you guys haven't quite thought about how you get out of here. You could follow the same path back. You could try to simply run out of the room and try to make it for that hall before it's able to shut on you. But you don't really have a thought about whether it's still dangerous in here, if you guys have disarmed this trap by going in the proper order. I don't know if either of you thought about this, but you're kind of in the center of it now.
Yeah, I had thought, I didn't map it out, but maybe there's a way continuing to follow the same pattern that eventually brings us back out. Either that or essentially retrace our steps exactly, like go reverse order to leave. Like if it was the same, it would be like I'm just gonna. Do you mind if I put it in writing here again?
Oh yeah, I mean you're welcome to write anything on there. Like the closest urn that I see towards the door, then there's the foot that the dwarf is on. The real question is, um, if you could find a door that's near there.
That's not gonna work. Is there a way to clear my writings? Easy way to.
Not a terribly simple way, but we can. Do you want to clear the way you got in?
I'll leave that. I'm just gonna erase this other stuff.
So part of why I started at the entranceway was to basically give you the actual like thought of like if you need to end in an urn, there's only one choice there. The dwarf is on the foot, and then you've got you could go actually realistically to either side to there. And then there's not a scarab for that one, so that kind of ends that thought. The scarab goes to the reed, and then from the reed you need. Oh, wait, did I do that backwards?
Yeah, so I was trying to see if like going like one of the other vultures, like there's two vultures that we could step on to leave, but they don't seem to lead us back.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at is when you like start to look over these things, following that order, there doesn't seem to be a way out. Oh, that's what it was. It's because it's the urn, foot, scepter, scarab, reed. But from that reed, there's no like doorway or snake. I mean, there's no doorway between it and the snake from that spot. So like the way that would seem to be the way out at least gets you closer, so you're within jumping distance. Doesn't like have the full order to it.
Yeah, Taryn, any ideas? Right now, I'm leaning towards kind of trying to go back the way we came, like follow the same path.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the safest way as well. And maybe just be ready to run like hell if anything seems to come out at us.
Does that sound like the plan?
Uh, Wondering if we should take a couple minutes to think about if there were missing anything here. Just don't see another way following either order that.
Well, from what I can see, that seems to be the only like, the way we came in seems to be the only way we can follow an order back out.
Yeah, Kyrnos he'll call to the others to essentially like make some room in case we have to like kind of leap through. Um, Kyrnos is, he might be able to misty step out, but he can't take Terran with him.
Yeah, no worries about that. I'm fast and like you said, I'm nimble on my feet. Pretty small, so I can probably get out of here by myself.
Do you want me to try stepping first, and then if something bad happens, or do you want to, or do you
I'm
want me to see if
sorry,
I can?
I just thought of something. Did we take the rope with us, or is it still hanging down?
I believe you guys took those up.
Yeah, I don't think we would have. Yeah, I don't think we would have left it.
Yeah, no, probably not. I just had to ask.
If I recall, it was basically because it was most of your rope. So I think had you left it, you would pretty much have none left.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we definitely would have taken them.
So if you want, I can try to misty step out first. Oh no, I can't. I have to go at least a little bit closer back onto the urn.
You could go from where he's at out of the room. I mean, yeah, that one's technically 30 feet as well. One of the problems with what's his name not being able to do geometry is technically all of those spaces are 30 feet.
Well, I'm just thinking I don't want to misty step to the where the block itself is if it starts rising or dropping and crush me. So I feel like I'd have to
Yeah,
be.
makes sense.
Um, yeah, so I think Kyrnos is going to look to Taryn. Like, just want to make one more time. Like, I'm going to step down onto the urn and then try to misty step. Then, depending on what happens, either run or if that doesn't seem to trigger anything, maybe try and go back the way you came.
Yeah,
Do you want him to step down and then you can miss the step if he causes something to happen? But it gives you a chance to see whether he causes something to happen?
I'm
Or
just
would you
thinking
rather?
because if he steps and it starts to like if that starts to come down, Kyrnos would have to move and then misty step to get beyond the block.
For what it's worth, it's like 6 seconds that the block still like shuts off that thing. So realistically, like this is one of those things like you can magic your way through that pretty safely.
Okay, in that case, yeah, then Terran, because then if something happens, Terran's a little bit closer and has more of a, yeah, that makes more
Yeah.
sense then.
Well, it's also for your own, it's like a question of like, are you trying to be super safe and willing to throw away that spell right now to just feel no risk at all?
Good point. Yeah, if I don't have to use it,
So if you let Taryn take the first steps and you guys try to backtrack your steps out of here.
I think so, Terran.
yeah, that's fine with me. And That's what we're going with. Taryn is gonna step out onto the earth.
So I imagine this is like one of those very trippy kind of like I feel like it's like a Beatles Yellow Submarine maybe, where they're all like stepping in line and you can kind of see like they're stepping together as if they're like one person with these like marionettes like on the same thing. Like on like poles, so there's like two people in front of you who are marionettes, two people behind you, and you're like walking like five people. But you guys can like start to walk out of here. Does anybody feel like the temptation to touch another tile and see like how much danger you can get into?
Definitely not Taryn.
Kiranos is keeping his hands to himself.
Gotcha, you guys walk out of here, no problem then.
It was tense.
Oh, but I am curious. Should we have someone look at the dwarf body?
I don't even want to risk like if we touch the body and it shifts the weight that it's going to set something off. We could
Does
for that.
Taryn want to grab it?
I want to. Oh, but I'm thinking, yeah, uh, yeah. I'm really curious about that, but I want to search through his stuff.
Gotcha. So as he kind of pauses, what does Kiranos do?
I think Kiranos is going to. I'll see you on the other side. And he's going to try
Gotcha.
and get past Taryn here.
Yeah, you can
Get
walk
out.
past him without any problem. If you just kind of continue on again, like one of the things is you really can't stop on the same spaces. With a friendly person, you can almost always like pass through their space regardless of size. It's really just actually for hostiles that like being a smaller creature matters. But yeah, you can walk out, no problem. Taryn kind of like goes to the side and you can do an investigation check if you would like your turn. So, quick little look over him. You can see there's let's see. He's got like a shield that seems to be in like pretty good shape still. It's not like incredibly damaged, but you can see he's been through battles with it. It's surely not pristine. But there's probably one pouch that's really most interesting about him that there seems to be a rather large diamond inside of, as well as two pretty familiar looking crystals. One of them is dark blue, and the other one is a bright, vibrant purple, and they are both eyeballs.
Yeah, I will take the diamond and the eyeballs. What did you say the colors were on the eyeballs? Like dark blue and
Like I think a vibrant purple. You said.
oh, okay, yeah. Just gonna add them.
My bad there. My keyboard died. Um, it is a vibrant purple and then dark blue on the eyeballs. You might have missed. I noticed he has his yellow turban is set with a peridot. So there's actually four gemstones on him of note. But those are the four things that are probably the biggest things that you would grab.
Yeah, I would probably take the peridot as well.
So with the peridot and the diamond, you can write down that those have a value of 500 gold pieces. So by this point, you guys are certainly approaching pretty late in the day, where it's like 11 o'clock, and you guys 100% need to start to look for a place to rest. Do you want to stay somewhere near here? Do you have an idea where you would like to rest?
Tyron would suggest that we rest in the room with the cauldron and the shadow. And no one looks at
Uh,
the face.
Kyrnos is a little leery of that, having looked into that demonic face. How about the room with the water? As long as we're not, as long as we've got those tridents and nobody tries to walk through, might be, or just on the in the hallway beyond it.
You know what?
That
Why?
'Cause that way, if we need to flee something that's coming from the other side, we've got the tridents and can run through. It might not be able to follow us.
Think about that. Wouldn't we be pretty safe then, just in the hallway, like between the tomb and the watery hallway, like the hallway with the door and everything? Because the tube is pretty safe. There's nothing coming from there, and from the hallway we have the watery wall that you need the tridents to go through.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like just on this side of the watery hall. Yeah, in between that and the tomb. Yeah, that like little hallway. That's kind of yeah.
They're more or less bunkered down, like right where you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um, who would like to take the first watch?
Taryn would offer to take the first watch.
Excellent. And who will do the second?
Uh, Kyrnos can take the second watch.
And who would do the third?
Actually, Flynn, she needs time to don armor, right? So it make more sense to have her go, I guess, either first before Taryn.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean,
So otherwise she'll be unarmored if something comes.
Essentially, on her watch, like she'll be good. Like most of the time, I don't necessarily worry about saying like once you wake her up, there's a chance like of it being in that first 10 minutes. As far as I usually look at it, because it's a roll for an hour, it's far more just to see like what something happens than to like penalize you. Like, oh, this person has to put on their armor.
Okay, okay. Yeah, then in that case, yeah, maybe Taryn, Kyrnos, um, and then Chris if you want. I'm
yeah,
either Flynn Zeros or Zeros Flynn. Doesn't really matter to me.
yeah. Quinn can take third.
Zeros will take the last watch. Oh, before we bunker down, Kyrnos might he will test the wand now that we're out of the hieroglyph room. Just like kind of point it like down the hallway and try it off.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like shooting it to the north of you, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you do that, can Taryn move out of the way just for safety?
Yeah, he would warn everybody like I'm gonna try this and like try to yeah.
Gotcha. Roll. Actually, yeah, roll a d100. Roll a d100. Alrighty. So as Kirados kind of like looks towards the end of the hall, and you kind of like do a little swoop and you start to like summon the magic of this wand, you can kind of feel as this little unicorn horn starts to unleash infinite impossibilities. And as you go to actually like cast forward the magic that's charged up within, you like expect something to like form or happen towards the end of the hall, and you start to feel as you're like drawing a creature into this dungeon, and then within a moment later, I need you to roll a dexterity. Just
Save.
dexterity check here.
Gotcha.
As you start to summon this creature into the dungeon, a massive rhinoceros starts to form in the space in front of you and is immediately trying to buck at you and stab you through with its horn. What would you like to do?
Can I try to like dismiss it? Like essentially, like I don't know if I'm concentrating on this. Does it feel like I'm like keeping this thing around? Almost like the
If you would like, as an action, you can try to dismiss this. You don't
yeah.
quite know what's happening yet.
You know, I'm a little panicked with this massive thing in this narrow corridor, so I'm gonna try to dispel it. Um, I only have a 5th level spell slot left, so that is what I'm gonna try to do.
Oh, you're going to dispel magic?
Well, initially I was thinking try to dispel it with the wand, or like, yeah, I'm not sure how, because like I know with like some spell, like if you're concentrating, like even if you're casting it through a wand, you can kind of, but I don't know how that would feel like, or if you would think he has that ability to.
I got you. At present, because you're not really attuned to it, this is just kind of doing something. So you really don't know if you have that control. Part of what I was saying, like if you go for casting dispel magic, like that's definitely a different thing, but more effective because dispel magic is something you do know that you control that spell.
Yeah, I'm thinking he might. Again, he's not this wisest guy. He might just panic a little bit and try the wand, dismiss it.
All right, so first you're just trying to like drop your concentration. You're just trying to
Yeah.
like distract yourself, kind of. Would you like to move at all? As this creature does not go anywhere.
Yeah, he's gonna attempt to back towards the others, like probably the others, like telling the others, like move, move, move. Like,
So I think for what it's worth, you could cover the ground where those three are. Terran, yeah, I don't think it makes sense to call Terran difficult terrain as if he were a medium creature. I feel like him moving through you is kind of the same level of you could potentially move through there. So I'd say you could get to, basically 5 feet away from Terran. You could get to that next space.
gotcha.
Um, but everybody else right now is going to be surprise condition where it is effectively they are at best getting a reaction here. So if I can, Taryn, let me get a dexterity from you, please. This is effectively initiative, but dexterity check and initiative are the same thing, by the way. So let's see. Yeah, this thing is just going to charge forward, and it is going to just smash into Zeros and try to gore Zeros. It should hit with an 18, and I need a con 14 save from Zeros as this horn stabs into him. He's going to take 2 wounds here. Um, and my bad guys in the past, I didn't actually recognize. Those guys cap out at 7th level, so they have a maximum of 7 wounds. But he'll take this massive horn, stabbing through his flesh, and then we'll go to uh, Taryn and Quinn, both surprised. You get your reactions, but it's going to go back to the top of the order. Kyranos, what would you like to do now that you know this rhino is not under your control.
Yeah, now he's going to be like, now he's going to try and dismiss it. So he's essentially going to kind of like move into like where you can see it again, cast, and then move back. In case it doesn't work.
Gotcha. Do you only have that high level dispel magic?
Yeah, that's all he can use to cast it.
Gotcha. I'm pretty sure the 5th level is just going to auto dispel it at that point.
Yeah, if it's a 5th level or lower spell, then yeah.
But having already cast this, you now have the understanding that pretty much every time you use this wand, you're going to get a different effect out of it. There's no way to predict what it will do, but it can do a lot of wonderful things and many potentially dangerous things, as you've now figured out.
Okay, it's like a wand of wild magic.
It is indeed.
Yeah, I was laughing my ass off when he started rolling the D100 because I'm in another campaign on Thursdays, and we have another player with this kind of wand, and they've done the same shit.
Oh, they're amazing. It's so much fun. One of my favorite characters is Wild Magic Sorcery for this.
Yeah.
So you guys are in a rough place here. I don't want to simply like skip over this night, but I do kind of want to get to the point beyond this night. I don't think you guys are entirely without ability, and more than likely, shit that would encounter you is going to be one or two of those dwarves or those amalgamations. I don't think any of those are severe threats. Do you guys kind of agree that even with I rolled 2 random encounters that would come up, do you think you guys can get through 2 encounters at this point? 2 relatively easy encounters, I mean.
In Kyranos he's down to cantrips, so he
That's where easy encounters I feel like still kind of falls into, unless like the worst stuff happens. It's not especially game breaking, I feel like, to skip over them. And that's one of the things where the rogue really shines, in that Terran is still kind of max power.
yeah, and he still can give like he has a use of bardic inspiration left.
Yeah. So you guys are close to where you're getting really close to tapped out. These are some of the most amazing times, but like I said, like the things that you should encounter with a random encounter like this will tend to be 1 or 2 of the tome dwarves, 1 or 2 of the actual tome guardians. In general, you shouldn't necessarily have bad things. So let's actually see real quick. Let me get Kyranos to roll 2 perceptions. And I assume you guys are sleeping with some sort of light.
Yeah, I think we would keep the lights on, yeah.
Gotcha. And then 1 more perception, please, from Kyranos. Holy shit! And that tells me like the first encounter would be easier because you're not getting surprised by it. And then let me get a perception from Quinn, and then another perception from Quinn. I think that's really just 2d20. And then same thing. You're not sleeping with no lights when she's on watch, right?
No, she's gonna have light as well. She has bring out a torch.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, that's realistically. So, I mean, even if she gets remotely surprised, she's the one who has her full fighting strength. I'm gonna just go ahead and I want to actually get to the point of this. If you guys have an extremely difficult sleep, you're interrupted at 3 different kinds of time in the night. One of them is far less kind of troubling. Maybe just kind of like almost like kind of phantom sounds, but 2 that actually kind of turn into little bouts of combat kind of thing. The important thing that is going to happen is when you all wake up, as you start to gather yourselves. When you are gathering yourselves and starting to prepare for this new day ahead of you, there's going to be a moment where you just see. Let me actually get perception checks from the two of you. Oh, my bad. I didn't even notice the double 20s. I was thinking that was fucking Keranos' double 20s. Holy shit. That's a lot of nat 20s really quickly there. So you guys are kind of like gathering yourselves up and preparing to set off for this new adventuring day. Um, Having accomplished a lot in this previous day where you met Keranos. And there's just going to be a moment where there's like a haze that kind of like moves through the room of water, and you see as it kind of starts to come towards this hall, and you see as it washes over you, and then you see as it passes by, and each of you kind of notices like in the moment, whether it is one of these eyeballs that each of you are kind of like looking at as you now have 5 or 6 of these, or whether it is the wand itself that you pulled from Ijin, or if it is the amulet that you pulled from Papa Zalto, or perhaps one of the cloak pins that Keranos pinned his cloak with. All of these things disappear, as if the previous day you found none of them. And that's where we're going to stop today. And we'll pick up there next week.
Oh. Hmm.
So guys, I have at least have a clue as to why, when you picked up those last 2 objects from those last 2 gods, nothing happened. Because something has happened. And you guys have to figure out what it is and when it happened.
Okay, because I was almost thinking the spores, but that was after we had already picked up the.
Actually, I guess while we're still on it, both because you guys rolled high, so I like the idea that you're almost like watching as these things are in your hand and immediately just poof. Let me get an arcana from each of you. I don't remember what I was going to tell you if you passed it though. Well, I guess let me go at this point. Do you guys have a thought as to what it is at present? What just happened?
Yeah, I have a thought.
Tell
First
me
thing that
about
comes to
this,
mind.
Chris.
I'm thinking like from the second warning. I think it was second.
It is indeed.
The ring is a path to another tomb. We went through.
The ring indeed is a path to another tomb, and Taryn, you already saw this, but you didn't actually heed it.
Nope. So we've been walking in the other tomb, and that's fine. Nothing has worked.
But you know how to walk through the tomb the next time you'd have to do it.
Yeah, we have the knowledge now at least. But, did I lose all my diamonds as well?
The diamond, the peridot, pretty much everything you guys have picked up. Well, realistically, everything you guys have picked up since you walked through the gravity ring is gone.
Right, that's a lot of things to delete here.